Good evening, everyone. Can I get your attention for a second? So we've got one thing we need to do is this room has 219 seats. That's fire code. So if anybody has a seat next to it, if you could raise your hand so somebody that's standing can sit, that would be great. There'll be no standing, so please find a seat if you can. We also have TV set outside, and if any of you are going to testify, we'll be more than happy to come and get it. A couple up here.
So she wants me to resolve.
Okay, looks good. Thank you, everybody. Just so you know, since this is a crowded house today, that door that says not an exit, that door will be unlocked, but for emergency use only. So we'll have these two doors, that door, the door where the exit sign is there, and up here if there is an emergency. And thank you very much for cooperating.
Okay, and so you'll leave that piece of paper for me? Yes. What piece of paper? The one I put on your card. Oh, you did? Oh, you signed it? Though it's still draft. I put it on your card. Oh, it's signed already? Okay, I just signed it. Thank you. Yep. They're handwritten, yeah. I just give those so people can take notes if they want. Nobody here? Okay. They're going to vote on each one, so I'm just putting in each person's name. Thank you. And Mr. Donley, could you do the safety minute after the introduction that I will now do? So in line with our Destination 2020 goal concerning safety and security, we share the following information. Restrooms are located at the far end of the hall directly across the atrium. An automated electronic defibrillator, an AED, is located across the hall in a white box, and a first aid kit is mounted on the wall by the second exit. We do not conduct evacuation drills during our meetings. So if an alarm sounds or an alert is announced, this is the real thing. Please begin to take safe action immediately. In the event we have to evacuate the building, there are 4 exit doors located on your right, and all have a lit exit sign over them. Once you enter the atrium, proceed quickly along the safest route to a door leading out of the building. If you do not have a vehicle here, or it is unsafe to enter your vehicle and you need a place to wait for help, we have designated the parking lot next to the gas station as our rally point. If you see something that is dangerous, we encourage you to speak up and clearly alert the room of the danger you see, and we encourage everyone to begin taking immediate safe action. Information will be provided throughout the evening as available, so everyone can best decide the safest route to take given the current situation. Mr. Donley.
Madam President, the Anchorage Police Department would like to remind the community that our roads are clear of snow now, which means they're full of bicycles. And I would add they're also full of pedestrians. And APD would like us to remember to be extra cautious as you get used to more and more bicycles on the roads and crossing our streets. For bike riders, please familiarize yourselves with the municipal ordinances to better share the roads. All municipal ordinances may be viewed on APD's website at muni.org/police. The chapter pertaining to bicycles is 9.38. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Donley. And for our Kuyana, Ms. Plunkett.
Kuyana, a Central Yupik word for thank you, is also the name of our site-based award of appreciations. Awards can be given to any employee or volunteer in recognition of achievement, service, or dedication. Kuyanas can be viewed or submitted by filling out an online Kuyana form through the ASD website. One is randomly selected from the website to be highlighted bi-monthly at our bi-monthly board meetings. Kuyana to Tarna Armstrong at East High School. Miss Armstrong is an amazing collaborator and has the best interest of my daughter in mind. As my daughter's advisory teacher, we are so grateful to be able to work with Miss Armstrong for all 4 years. We so appreciate your help and your follow-through. Thank you, thank you, thank you, from a parent.
Thank you very much. We want to welcome you to our board meeting and thank you for attending and supporting the work of the Anchorage School District and this board. The board thanks students, parents, teachers, staff, school business partners, and the entire community for your investment in our district with your time, your talent, and your tax dollars. As partners, we will respect your time and make this meeting as effective and efficient as possible. If you are unable to physically be present for the entire meeting, you may choose to tune in to the Municipality of Anchorage's Channel 9 to watch any school board meeting. Meetings are also streamed live and available on demand through the ASD website. Recordings of meetings are available on YouTube through the agenda. To access, find the desired meeting in Board Docs and click the Watch Video button. Recordings are time-stamped to the agenda for easy access and closed caption in compliance with Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act. Now, the primary purpose of the regular business meeting of the Anchorage School Board is to recognize excellence, receive reports, approve policies and contracts, as well as decide on the rules and processes followed by the board to facilitate decision-making. The role is to govern, not to solve management issues. I will now accept a motion for approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
It's been moved and seconded. The agenda is approved. At this point, we will have myself and Ms. Plunkett, we're going to make some closing statements before we do the adjournment of the 2017-18 school board. And we have a projection for that speech. So I'll start while they get that projection up. As a lifelong educator, I've been doing a lot of reflection on my board service and felt compelled to prepare a final report card. You know, once a teacher, always a teacher. So for this task, I've enlisted the memory of our longest-serving board member, Kathleen Plunkett, to compile a list of the joint accomplishments of the board and the administration that have taken place over my 6 years of service and Kathleen's 9. We'll share the list, followed by our recommendation on what areas need focus. So we'll start off. Kathleen, you want to do the first one. If you can't see that, we'll be reading it aloud too. I don't know if the screens are accessible for you also.
Implemented ASD Destination 2020 Goals and Strategic Plan.
We hired an innovative and skilled superintendent. Yes, 3 times is a charm.
Supported the purchase and implementation of Go Math and Cengage English Language Arts curriculum to meet most rigorous Common Core standards adopted in 2012.
We supported the literacy focus in K through 2nd with funding for curriculum, lower class sizes, and instructional coaches.
Supported implementation of a multi-tiered system of support, MTSS, for all grade levels.
We supported the implementation of Ames Web and MAP assessments to inform the instructional needs of students.
Supported the creation of the data dashboard with its various metrics to offer transparency on achievement, attendance, and behavior, and to offer educators ready access to data.
We supported the move to an electronic board doc system with online voting to allow for better accountability and transparency.
Supported ongoing SEL training for staff and students through Capturing Kids' Hearts, Lion's Quest, and professional development to understand adverse childhood experiences.
We passed each annual audit of the comprehensive annual financial review.
Supported an improved budget communication strategy.
Used many internal and external audits to improve business operations and rewrite administrative regulations.
Supported the launching of an innovative approach to escalating healthcare costs through Vera Healthcare Clinic.
Supported the Picus Odin research study on adequate funding.
Supported capital work and expenditures on safety and energy efficiency.
Supported the use of ARA funds for increased iSchool and classroom curriculum, computers, facility, and maintenance work.
Supported creation of a capital and an energy efficiency fund balance account.
Implemented facility condition and educational adequacy indices to guide capital planning needs.
Reviewed and revised annually the 6-year capital improvement plan to address the freeze in state bond debt reimbursement and increase security needs.
Participated in informative bond campaigns resulting in the passage of bonds used to renovate Airport Heights, Gladys Wood, Girdwood, Rabbit Creek, Mountain View, Turnagain, the Aurora Gym, the West CT&E facility, West Romick IMC, the Bartland CT addition and cafeteria, KCC, as well as security projects, roofs, and other building life extensions at 19 schools.
Paid off over $2 million in bond indebtedness.
Supported implementation of ALICE trainings for enhanced safety and security of our students and staff.
Supported the closure of Mount Iliamna and expansion of the SBBS at 4 neighborhood schools, the opening of the Alaska Middle College School, the Chinese immersion program at Scenic Park Elementary, and the Montessori expansion at Tudor Elementary.
Supported the fall 2018 opening of the UPIC immersion program at College Gate Elementary, King Tech High, expansion of the middle college on UAA campus, the ANCEP Acceleration Academy, and the district adoption of the Paideia program.
Initiated the cost of school start times and school capacity and consolidation.
Updated the original ASD policy to improve or strengthen charter school language, online lottery procedures, student nutrition and wellness, tobacco-free campuses, and discipline procedures in order to keep students in school.
Address policies on cyberbullying, electronic devices, volunteer drivers for school activities, and restriction of sex offenders on campus.
Made policy changes regarding financial procedures, procurement procedures, and strengthened fund balance requirements.
Wrote policy to address board member meeting attendance and clarified procedures for filling a board vacancy in alignment with the MOA appointment process.
We converted ASD policy to AASB format and continue work of reviewing and updating all administrative regulations, an enormous multi-year project.
Held annual pre-session luncheons and meetings with the Anchorage Legislative Caucus to inform on ASD achievements and funding and policy needs.
Collaborated with the Alaska Association of School Boards on statewide education issues and for board trainings.
Rehired a lobbyist to assist in gaining support for the board's legislative priorities.
Met quarterly with the Municipal Assembly for improved communications.
Negotiated shared service agreements with the MOA, with the Municipal Internal Auditor for ASD as the first shared service.
Supported the financing of school buses for Contract Advantage.
Negotiated contracts with 8 labor groups.
Redesigned the superintendent evaluation form.
Revised board norms and code of conduct.
Established the Board Leadership Academy to train community members and new board members for service.
Develop board service appreciation for
Application.
You're right, thank you. For transparency of board work.
Improve responsiveness to board emails with an annual tracking log.
Instituted Q&A logs for board use in addressing community concerns.
Develop monthly updates and general ASD information sheets for board presentations at community councils, the FCC, and the Municipal Budget Commission.
Establish board library to make reference materials available to board members.
Instituted the focus on students, staff, and community at each work session to recognize and honor greatness in the district and community.
Initiated safety briefing, Kuyana, reading, and opening statements at regular meetings.
And increase the student advisory board members' visibility and role at our meetings. Now, all of this work has been supported by the board, but the heavy lifting was often done by the many dedicated and talented employees of the ASD, even as we cut the administrative staff by 28% in the last 6 years. This list shows just the tip of the iceberg for the plethora of tasks undertaken and the responsibilities assumed by an administration which often doesn't get the recognition they deserve. On behalf of my fellow board members and myself, we offer you all a huge thank you. Additionally, Kathleen has some personal accomplishments that should be noted. She has worked with 4 superintendents and 17 board members over 3 terms. She served as the Finance Audit and Governance Chair multiple times, as well as Treasurer for 5 years. She served as the chair of the, that's in the wrong section. Yeah. She used accounting expertise for fiscal oversight of the budget, the CAFR, and the bond proposals for 9 years. She served as the guardian of the fund balance and equipment renewal fund. She guided the time-intensive governance committee through policy conversion work. She represented Alaska on the AASB board for 5 years, 5.5, almost 6 years, working on behalf of all Alaskan students. She made numerous trips to Juneau to communicate the board's legislative priorities. She served on Cook Inlet Tribal Council's Arise Collective Impact Group to address the achievement of Alaska Native students. She served as an advisory group member of the school-based community health centers. She attended hundreds of hours of community council meetings, participated in many facility tours to inform our CIP needs, and spent hundreds of hours in discussion with citizens in person, via phone, and by email. She participated in professional development work at AASB, NSBA, Council of Great City Schools, as well as completed thousands of hours of reading. And she attended hundreds of school and district academic events, her favorite being an MC at music performances.
Absolutely. Tam's personal achievements and accomplishments include, and I'm going to go back, served as chair of the Ad Hoc West Romic Renewal Committee and the Ad Hoc Board Code of Conduct Committee. She worked with 3 superintendents and 13 board members over 2 terms. Served as communication and legislative and governance chair, as well as clerk, vice president, and 3 years as president. Gave countless interviews to the media on a variety of educational topics. Made frequent posts on Twitter and Facebook on student, teacher, school, and district accomplishments, and wrote many newsletter columns or letters to the editor on educational issues. Made numerous presentations at the Chamber of Commerce, Rotary clubs, industry groups, and conferences on budgets, bonds, data dashboard, and more. Wrote a bi-weekly missive called Updates from the President to keep the board informed. Made 6 trips to Juneau to speak with the legislators on education needs. Provided 5 teachers a day of professional development at no cost to the district by covering their K-12 classes and teaching SEL for 5 school days in 2013. Served as co-chair on the United Way's 90% by 2020 community initiative to increase community awareness on the importance of attendance and collaborative with the district to raise the graduation rate, currently at 81%. Served on the Partners in Education Coalition to communicate funding needs to legislature. Participated in professional development work at AESB, NSBA, and Council of Great City Schools, as well as thousands of hours of reading. Answered thousands of emails and phone calls. Attended and participated in hundreds of school and district academic events, athletic competitions, and facility tours.
Here are the areas we recommend for the continuing board. We would like you to work on expanding pre-K opportunities for new students through public-private collaborations and when new funding is received.
Lower class size when new funding is received.
To continue the intentional focus on lessening the achievement gap of student groups through the MTSS.
Bring back services of career resource advisors through a blended teaching approach requiring less FTE.
Use new federal safety and security monies to fund mental health counselors in schools.
Work at a state level to mitigate health benefit costs so that these funds can be redirected to teacher salaries.
Advocate in the board's legislative priorities that the state either offer an adequate retirement pension plan for teachers or re-enter the Social Security system in order to improve educator recruitment and retention.
Approve a French immersion school at O'Malley Elementary to address demands for more immersion choice, the school's low capacity, and to mitigate the inequity of the South area being the only area in the district without an immersion program.
And with that, Kathleen has some final remarks.
I have been on the school board for 9 years, and as I leave for my next venture, it has been an honor, and leaving the board is bittersweet. We, as a board, have accomplished a lot using our governance role through policy, since we are one of 7 working together for the benefit of our students. As a board, we have worked with our superintendent and listened to our Anchorage community, which includes our students, staff, teachers, and taxpayers, and as well our parents. For the success of all of our students, we have worked at both the municipal and state level with many people. I respect and have learned something from everyone I have worked with. I have enjoyed my work on the AASB board by working at a state level, and I believe it has helped our Anchorage students as well through the whole state. Through governance, we have watched our expenses and stayed transparent. I am proud of what we have accomplished working with all of our fund balance accounts to use our money wisely for our students. I have seen our shared services expand from the initial internal auditor position that I pushed for to multiple functions as we work together with the municipality, and I hope that it continues. With the new AASB board policy, we will save money, and it is transparent for our community, staff, and students. I have enjoyed and will miss all of the concerts that I have the privilege to MC. We have amazing students amazing teachers and staff, and it has been a pleasure working with everyone. I am looking forward to going back to being a volunteer. There is no higher service. Thank you all.
And my final remarks. In the fall of 2011, when I made the decision to run for school board, something that I had contemplated for over 10 years, I intuited that the ASD was in for tumultuous times as we transitioned to meet the educational requirements of the 21st century while we simultaneously faced diminished state funding. I recall talking about how we are currently preparing students for jobs that don't exist, that our students will be asked to use technologies that haven't yet been invented to solve problems we don't currently recognize. I advocated that a 21st century education requires that students learn to think critically, express themselves clearly, both orally and in writing, and be taught to find information efficiently, assess the quality of this information from a vast array of sources, and effectively use it to accomplish a goal. Or, as Dr. Bishop succinctly states, information is ubiquitous. What you do with that information is the key. I chose to serve on the board because I felt my skills and experience as an educator and my passion for student learning could be of service. My original campaign promises touted increased accountability, communication, innovation, and community engagement. Based on the previous examples we shared, I felt I've kept those promises. It hasn't been an easy task to produce a balanced budget in an era of flat funding. It's pained me greatly to vote for many of the cuts we've made. Although we are a much leaner and more efficient district, the classroom is being impacted, and I again implore our state leaders to increase our funding. In conclusion, it's a common knowledge that I'm a big proponent of learning other languages. I tell our students who are fluent in one language and who have learned a second language that they indeed have a superpower. Research has shown that bilingualism leads to stronger problem-solving skills and a better command of the first language, not to downplay the obvious communicative advantages of more than one language in a global economy. I want to remind all who are listening who have not yet learned a second language that you still have time. Research on the neuroplasticity of the human brain has shown you can learn at any age. Don't accept the misinformed belief that the cutoff for second language learning is adolescence. In fact, as you age, learning another language is a perfect way to form new brain connections as others are being pared away. I'm going to practice what I preach when my husband, who's seated in the first row, he comes to the school board meeting where he knows he gets to leave by 8. He and I will move back to his native Switzerland this fall for a couple years. We'll live in a bilingual town where I intend to become fluent in his mother tongue of Swiss German. It's never too late to learn a language. Thank you to the thousands of teachers and staff members in our schools for your dedication and commitment to our students. Thank you to my fellow board members and the administration. It's been my honor to work with you. I wish you all the best as you face the new challenges while never forgetting the mandate that the ASD be a great place for our students to learn while preparing them for success in life. And with that, I'm going to hand this really fancy baton to the superintendent, who gets to sit in the president's chair for the next few minutes until a new board is elected. And I bid you all farewell. Thank you. Oh, I do have to do one thing. I have to move to close the, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the 2017-18 school board.
I move to adjourn the 2017-18 school board.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any objection? That school year is adjourned. Thank you.
With my power of the baton, we're going to take a 5-minute recess.
Chief Judge Sarah Chen and the Alaska Supreme Court Justice Peter Masson could come forward just to get ready. Are they here? ladies and gentlemen. As the superintendent of the Anchorage School District, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda will be the oath of office of new school board members. All right, new school board members outside. At this time, we have our Youth Chief Justice, Sarah Chen, as well as the Alaska Supreme Court Justice, Peter Masson, swearing in our new board members. Please come forward. We'd ask that the board members, between the three of you, hold one microphone, turn it on so that we all may hear, and the justices. Thank you.
First of all, good evening, and I'd like to extend the thanks of the Anchorage Youth Court to the Anchorage School District for all the support that it's given the Youth Court over the several decades now. The administration and the teachers and the parents and students have all been very supportive of the organization. We appreciate that support, and we also appreciate the school board's invitation to have a Youth Court judge participate in these swearing-in ceremonies. At this point, I would like to introduce Sarah Chen, who's the Chief Judge of the Anchorage Youth Court. She's also a graduating West High senior and a member of the Youth Court Board of Directors, as am I. Sarah, it's up to you now.
All right. Please raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Elisa Snelling,
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Alaska.
and the Constitution of the State of Alaska,
And that I will honestly, faithfully, and impartially discharge my duties
and that I will honestly, faithfully, and impartially discharge my duties
as a school board member to the best of my ability.
as a school board member to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you. At this time, we will move forward with paperwork for our new board members, but we also have another transition, and this is a transition of our student representative. At this time, I will turn it over to Kaylee.
All right, I'm here to introduce to you today my mini-me who will be taking over my position, Ben Post. If we could give him a round of applause, I'm so excited. I am so excited to see what he has in store. I have no doubt of his abilities. He is just a ball of energy. He was so energetic and exciting and full of amazing ideas, amazing, intelligent ideas. I have found it an honor to serve and represent all the students for ASD, and I expect nothing less from Ben. Yeah, so good luck.
And we'll continue with the 3-minute addies until the paperwork sign the oath of office, and then we will begin. Thank you. 2 minutes until they return. We're going to, as soon as you guys are official, we're going to have everybody rearranges, right? Do you have your seats?
Yeah, and I don't know what the plans are there other than changing them.
Oh, after the offices are done. That's right. Do you guys want to change this?
We're here for now, so I would think we'll go over. Yeah, certainly.
And they're just switching seats. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I call the meeting back to order. At this point in time, we will organize the 2018-2019 Anchorage School Board. I would like to open up the floor for nominations for president. Mr. Donley.
Madam President, I nominate Member Snelling for president.
We have one nomination for Member Snelling. Are there additional nominations for president of the Anchorage School Board?
Would nominate Starr Marsett.
Starr Marsett is nominated for president. Are there any other nominations for president of the Anchorage School Board? Seeing none and hearing none, do the candidates accept their nominations?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Okay, we will move forward with a vote. We are not going to do it on electronically. We're going to have to do a voice vote, and I will call members. Do we need a motion or just vote? Okay, so we will begin with Member Marsett to be president of the Anchorage School Board. I will start voting to my left.
Yes.
Member Davis.
I vote for her.
Yes. Member Holleman.
Yes.
Member Donley.
I vote for Member Snelling.
Okay. Member Mitchell.
Yes to Member Marsett.
Member Marsett.
I say yes to me too.
Yeah. Member Hildy.
Yes to Member Snelling.
And Member Snelling.
I'll vote for myself.
Okay. At this point in time, we have a tally of 4 votes for Starr Marsett for president and 3 votes for Elisa Snelling. I'd like to say that majority votes, and Starr Marsett, I'm turning this gavel over to you as president. You will continue the vice president and all those others. Thanks.
Thank you very much, board members, and I hope to do right by you and always do what's best for our students and serve as the voice of this board. Thank you. So we'll move on to next nominations, I guess, or vice president. Any nominations?
Madam President?
Yes.
I nominate Member Hildy.
Okay. I nominate Deena Mitchell. Is there any other nominations? Okay. Do you both accept the nomination? Okay. Ms. Bettye Davis, could you give us your vote, please?
I vote for Deena.
Okay.
Deena Mitchell.
Member Hildy.
I'm going to go ahead and vote for myself.
And I'll vote for myself as well.
Member Hildy.
And I vote for Deena Mitchell also. So that is a vote of 4 for Deena Mitchell and 3 for Ms. Hildy. So congratulations. We will move on to clerk. Are there any nominations for clerk? I nominate Ms. Hildy. Are there any other nominations? Okay. You accept that nomination? Okay. And we will go ahead and vote. Ms. Davis?
Yes.
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 Okay, congratulations. We have our new clerk. And now we'll move on to treasurer. Do I have nominations for treasurer, please?
I nominate Member Snelling.
Okay. Any other nominations? Ms. Snelling, do you accept? Okay. If we could go ahead and vote, please. Ms. Davis?
Yes.
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 And yes, so it's unanimous. Congratulations. Okay, we will take a few moments, probably a couple of minutes here to rearrange our seating, and we'll be right back.
No, actually.
Andy, you're moving over there, right?
Somewhere.
You moving next to me? Yes. Oh,
I didn't know I was moving.
We just got to know each other. So we are going to stay now once we... And Alicia, you're going over here. Ben, what's that? No, I'm going down there. Ben, you've got your name tag.
Yes.
Oh, sweet stuff.
Well, it will magically appear on the screen if you're officially checked in.
You got a lot of homework tonight, Ben?
Yes.
Oh, he was telling me what you That's how it's supposed to be. Is your oldest?
At this time, we're going to bring our board meeting to order, and we have our new board, all members present for the 2018, well, no, it would be 19-20 school year, right? 18-19, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to read a statement before we start our public testimony on non-action items. The board welcomes public comments on agenda items, both action and non-action, as well as in general. We value public comment as it both ensures that we remain aware of public thoughts, ideas, and concerns, and informs our decision-making process. We have a table front and center with 2 seats and microphones available for your testimony when I call your name. And if I don't say it right, don't hold it against me. Thank you. You have 3 minutes to testify, and you may begin speaking when the timer appears on the screen to your left and begins the countdown. When you have 30 seconds left, the number will turn yellow. When the timer reaches 0, please finish your sentence. Additionally, it is not our practice that board members answer questions or engage in discussion with members of the public. This is your time to speak and our time to listen. The board will consider all information shared by the public, and when deemed necessary, issues raised in testimony will be referred to the administration for follow-up. So at this time, I will call the first 2 speakers, and if you will come up front. And I will ask, I don't mind applause, but if you will keep them to a minimum so that it tries not to disrupt the process, I would appreciate that. So Cindy Campbell is our first speaker. Is Cindy here? Oh, okay. And then we have Vanessa Lord Smith, sorry. If you could come up and occupy the second seat. Vanessa, are you here? Okay. Our next speaker would be Daisy Wilco. Oh, did I hear something? Daisy Wilco will be our next speaker. And Cindy, are you ready? And Cindy, if you're ready, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Cindy Campbell, a retired ASD, FCS, and ECE teacher. The hat I'm wearing tonight is representing the steering committee for the ECE advisory board at the King Career Center. And so each of you has a packet, and so you can follow along. We wrote a letter, and I have other things included. So, dear Dr. Deena Bishop and the Anchorage School Board, the King Tech Early Childhood Education Advisory Committee is elated that KCC ECE will remain as a valued program. We wish to thank Lou Pontefino for reading the many letters, respectfully responding, and listening to all the expressed concerns over the closure of the Early Childhood Center at King Tech. Ultimately, it was the voices of past students in current ECE jobs that spoke to his conscience and convinced him that the ECE program has value and is worth keeping. We are so grateful for a reverse decision, and that the Lab ECE preschool and the CTE training program will continue. We also wish to thank the new ASD School Board President, Starr Marsett, ASD Pre-K Director Chelsea Moreau, Missy Fraze, and Kern McKinley, and other ASD personnel that gave of their time and listened to our concerns. As you see, we are very passionate about early childhood education and the positive impact it has on a community as a whole. We are aware as educators that high quality early childhood experiences leads to a more successful beginning for a child at school and throughout life. The efficacious ECE program opened the King Career Center in 1975. That's over 40 years ago. No other program in the state of Alaska has this unique component of a preschool running simultaneously with a CTE high school curriculum. It has been the backbone for supplying countless quality hires in ECE in Anchorage. Its curriculum is aligned with the high standards of the National Organization for the Education of Young Children, the NAEYC, and follows Alaska's ECE core knowledge and competencies and UAA's early education program. The self-generating scholarships from preschool parent funding have led to many post-secondary education opportunities for ECE students. And in the back of this packet, I have included 2 of the letters from post-ECE students that are now holding real valuable jobs in our community. The advisory committee's recommendations are enclosed and outline our hope that King Tech's ECE program will continue its focus on the birth through 8 years, as it has done successfully for years.
Cindy, I'm sorry, I need to stop you. We have a lot of testimony this evening.
Okay, and so enclosed is our packet for our recommendations. And so thank you so much for listening tonight.
Thank you. And if we could have our next speaker, Mandy McConnell. Dana Days, would you like to go ahead and start? As soon as are we ready? Go ahead.
School board members, parents in attendance, good evening. My name is Daisy Wilco. I'm sitting here in front of you tonight as a parent and a military spouse. A parent that wasn't born in the United States and that has adopted children from overseas as well. And I'm speaking regarding certain budget cuts that, everyone knows about it, the English Learners Program. Now, I have an adopted daughter that joined us in the United States a year and a half ago. She had completed her secondary education in Nigeria, West Africa, but when she transferred and came over here, it was so difficult to transit. Without the English Learners Program and those tutors that are bilingual in our schools within the Anchorage School District, it would have been almost impossible for her to be able to succeed. Today, she is a student at UAA, thriving student, if I may add, and she's doing very, very well because there were teachers who were available, bilingual teachers, very, very well-trained teachers in the early English language learners program that were there to help her. Secondly, I have a son that is 9 years old now, has problem with autism. He was born in West Africa as well, and had to go through the early childhood program, had to go through the early English learners program as well. And right now he attends Family Partnership and another private school in Eagle River. And the reason he's doing well, he just came in second at a spelling bee, BIMA spelling bee, a week ago. I would not have thought that my son would advance as much as he did without those specialized or specially trained tutors, especially those that are bilingual, that have those special trainings for early language English learners program. Another point I wanted to make is I have a daughter at Henshu. I have one that is graduating from Service High School, and 3 that have already gone through the Anchorage School District. And you guys are doing a very wonderful job. But it's, on the other hand, it's equally heartbreaking that certain programs that are very, very necessary, we are running the risk of losing those programs. And whereas Alaska and Anchorage specifically is so diversified, I am here to appeal that that program be kept in.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you.
If we can have Brenna Langford up front. Brenna, are you here? Oh, she's outside? Okay. Can someone? Her name is Lottie. Okay. So if somebody would just let her know. There she is. And you can go ahead and start. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the school board. My name is Manny McConnell, and I'm a parent of a student in the school district, a kindergarten teacher for over 12 years, and also a member of the National Association for Education of Young Children. I'm here today to remind you all of the importance of play as you roll out the 90-40-40-60 instructional times next fall. To inform others who are unaware of what that is, it is 90 minutes of language arts instruction, 40 minutes of WIN, what I need level instruction in language arts, 40 minutes of writing, and 60 minutes of math. We have approximately 130 minutes of specials, recess, and lunch, which leaves 30 minutes left for science, social studies, or a lesson in social emotional learning each day. That is 390 minutes from the time elementary school starts to when the bell rings at 3:30 p.m. While I understand the need to increase our district's reading test scores, please do not ignore the research about play. It is said that in order to meet the learning and developmental needs of a kindergarten child, a high-quality classroom needs to provide a balance of teacher-directed activities, child-initiated play, and focused experimental learning with daily time for playful, intentional learning centers. However, I am concerned that this is not the direction we are headed in this district. Several kindergarten teachers have been told that there isn't time for play within this new 90-40-40-60 instructional time. Some kindergarten teachers have already been told to remove their dramatic play, blocks, sensory tables, art centers, cars and trains, puppets, and more. The National Association for Education of Young children has found a strong link between play and learning for young children, especially in the areas of problem solving, language acquisition, literacy, and mathematics, as well as the development of social, physical, and emotional skills. If we are limiting these opportunities in teaching students these social skills of how to get along with others, be empathetic, how to manage emotions appropriately, this will inhibit their success as they continue through school. One study showed that a better predictor of a kid's academic success in the 8th grade is how well they socialize with their peers in the 3rd grade. And here we are cutting the time that we can be devoting to teaching these skills through play. Play is a vehicle for learning for these 4-, 5-, and 6-year-olds. It provides opportunities for learning in a context in which children are at their most receptive. Learning through play is developmentally appropriate for these ages and not be sitting through 170 minutes of language arts. Moving from the carpet area before instruction to the desk for work time is still sitting. Play should not be replaced by test preparation in kindergarten. Play and academics are not an either-or. Play is an essential element in learning. We can have high standards for math, language, literacy, social and emotional skills, and provide experiences for children to reach these rigorous standards in ways that embed the love of learning in their minds. Oftentimes I make the joke that I teach kindergarten because this is the one grade that I know that I'm taller than the students. But really, it's about instilling the love of learning in these young children. With the direction we are headed, a year in kindergarten without play, the love of learning will diminish, and we'll be creating students who hate school, who could lead to an increase in school dropouts. Like it was stated in the article from NPR, it's time we start valuing play for kids and not sacrificing their emotional and social development on the altar of facts, skills, and assessments. If we value healthy child development, we must find a balance in our classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for the applause, but it's going to be a long night, so I don't want to stifle them, but we've got to just, you know. So our next speaker is Harley Llewellyn, okay? And when the timer's ready, you can begin.
Good evening. It's good to see everybody again. I'm here tonight to talk about two different things. The first is special education, and the second is about my decision to leave the Anchorage School District. So first, the Anchorage School District seems to be taking steps to hamper the abilities of our special education department. I'm talking from our directors all the way down to our clericals. This is keeping them from adequately providing the services that our students need. This year, many more special education students qualified for intensive funding. In super short layman's terms, the special education department brought in millions of more dollars, yet FTE has been cut, and certain positions, like clericals, are now being paid out of grant funds, which are never guaranteed. Why are we neglecting our students who have the biggest difficulties and are frequently the farthest behind? Special education teachers now have general education students in their classroom due to MTSS, which affects those class sizes and reduces the amount of time they have to dedicate to special education students. Caseloads are over 30, and in some worst case but very real situations, they're double that. Department chair positions are being reduced and cut. The old, well, we're not cutting teachers doesn't really work here because if special education teachers have to do the job of clericals and department chairs, you've eliminated their ability to teach and form the solid, consistent relationships that are required for being successful with students who have disabilities. Please, as school board, get out your fine-tooth comb, look at what's going on with special education, including funding, personnel, programs, and the integration of MTSS. Second of all on my agenda here is why I'm leaving the Anchorage School District after this school year. After learning that my current position as special ed department chair at Mirror Lake Middle School would be changing into something I didn't want to do because I wouldn't have consistent time with students, I looked for other teaching openings in ASD, and at that time, there were none available. So out of curiosity and, quite frankly, frustration with the demeaning process and decisions being made without any input from those in the field, I looked at teaching positions in Minnesota, which is my home state. After getting negotiated contracts to review from some of those districts, I was absolutely flabbergasted to find salaries that are comparable to what I'm making here, with a cost of living that is about a third of what it is in Anchorage. I found that I'd have more maternity leave. I found class sizes written into their contracts, and if classes are higher than their limit, teachers are paid per pupil over the limit or another teacher is hired. This is all aside from the fact that I'll have a pension and I'll put into and be eligible to receive Social Security. Now, I know there are things that this district cannot control, like the pension and Social Security, and I know that we cannot legally bargain class size in the state of Alaska, but what's to stop this district and this board from implementing maximum class size limits? That's what's best for students, right? So you're going to hear a lot of testimony tonight from all these wonderful people here, and I want to leave you with one last thing. When I first got involved in the Anchorage School District around 7 years ago, veteran teachers asked me, why are you getting into teaching now? This is 7 years ago they said this. You don't have a pension, class sizes are rising, we're not amongst the highest paid, and morale is declining. When I'd reply, well, it's my passion, completely aghast at how they would say that, they'd chuckle and comment about how passion doesn't pay the bills and it wears off with a lack of respect. What you're seeing tonight is not new, but we, like so many other districts in the nation, are reaching a breaking point. What you do with it is up to you, but I certainly hope that you choose to stand up for your employees. It is the only way that you can stand up for our students and Alaska's future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if I could call Katy Lindsay, please. And when the timer starts, you can begin.
Hello, my name is Harley Llewellyn, and I am a 9th grader at Diamond High School. I am here to talk about the change of start times. I think there are positive and negative impacts with this change. All of these studies done make sense, and I agree with them, but there are other things that are not put on the study sheets that leave me with some concerns. I am involved in multiple after-school activities, and I have gone to the open houses to ask about this, and no one has had any answers for me. Some nights I get home around 8 p.m. for the first time that day, and then I have to do all of my homework. With the homework load that I already have, I cannot imagine what will happen here when I begin harder classes in the next few years. I will be up later finishing assignments that will put me to bed around 12 instead of 10, which is when I usually go to bed. It worries me when they want to push back times because all my after-school activities would get pushed back or shortened. This means all the activities I want to do and get better at will be affected. I also babysit for families after school, and if I get out of school later than their kids, they would not be able to depend on me to watch their kids. I wanted to get other people's opinions on this because I had only been talking to my friends who generally had the same opinions as I did. I polled 142 students at Diamond from all different types of classes, so my results would be more accurate. Out of those 142 students, 55.63% of them did not want times to change. 40.8% said they would like to see some type of change, and 3.52% either didn't have any opinion or could not decide. One of the common things I noticed with the kids that wanted a later start time only wanted the start time from 8:30 to 3 p.m. because they were too concerned about their after-school activities as well. One student wrote, "Starting later sounds better, I just don't want to get out at 3 o'clock." The students that did not want to change have the same concerns as me. One wrote, "It would make less time for homework, sports, and jobs. If we got out at 3:45, had sports for 2 hours, homework, dinner, and time with family, I would go to bed around 11 o'clock. There were also students that were concerned about jobs. Another wrote, "The later we stay in school, the less opportunity we have to earn an income, shadow for positions, and schedule appointments outside of the school hours." There were also students that said they have siblings that they have to watch and take care of after school because their parents are at their jobs. Overall, I just wanted to show all the concerns students have, and this is why changing the start times would not be the best choice. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker is Bryce Purcella. Is Bryce here? Okay. And you can begin.
My name is Katy Lindsay. I teach history at Diamond High School. When I returned to Alaska in 2012 with my teaching degree in tow, I arrived to a school district that was already troubled. It was October before I was hired, and kids' schedules were uprooted as they were shifted from overfull classes into mine. At the end of that year, I went through the stressful process of being displaced that so many new teachers are now experiencing. I have watched in dismay as the situation has deteriorated each year. Budget cuts continue, which in our district always results in fewer teacher positions. This has two immediate and unfortunate consequences to the students. Their class sizes increase and the variety of courses offered decreases. Increased class size means less interaction with the teacher, less opportunity for truly creative and engaging lesson plans, less opportunity for students to share their thoughts and be heard, and less constructive feedback from teachers on assignments, especially writing assignments. A decreased variety of classes offered is also a huge injustice to this generation of students. When I attended high school here in Anchorage, I was able to take classes such as AP European History, Philosophy, Humanities, and Children's Classics, classes that later helped me decide what to do with my life. And not a single one of these classes is offered anymore. Not because there aren't teachers willing to teach them or students wanting to take them, but because each department is down to the bare bones, so mostly only courses absolutely required for graduation are taught. The situation is only made worse when the money we do have is spent unwisely. Costly programs that sound great on the surface are typically just a rehashing of ideas that teachers are already working with, or are what we like to call canned curriculum. Programs that try to mandate what teachers will do to such an extreme that we will no longer have the ability to be even remotely true to ourselves. For example, the incoming and expensive Capturing Kids' Hearts program that is already required at some schools and will be required at others essentially scripts how we as teachers are supposed to interact with our students and deal with classroom management, as if we are bizarre clones of each other with the exact same teaching styles. Do you have any idea how quickly our rapport with our students will disintegrate if we stop being genuine? These decisions, and so many others that I do not have time to mention, are creating a negative culture that will have serious effects in the future. I have already advised strongly to a few of my very bright, motivated friends still in college to seriously rethink any plans to go into education. Because honestly, they deserve better than to be treated the way that teachers are treated in this district. Teaching is a stressful, draining job, incredibly rewarding, but perhaps not enough to justify putting up with the kind of atmosphere that currently dominates the school system. I can only hope that we can work together to address the problems currently facing us in public education. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Next speaker is Bree Dolph. Bree? Okay, and you can start.
Board members, Superintendent, my name is Bryce Priscilla, a science teacher at Greening. I want to testify tonight about how the loss of workplace continuity has affected student performance and teacher morale. The best way for me to illustrate the problems facing my students and colleagues is through an analogy. I'd like for you to envision a figure skating competition in which a figure skater has worked for months to perfect a routine. Their footwork, their spins, their jumps, everything they practice, they're able to execute with near perfection. However, on the day of the competition, the judges tell the figure skater that instead of the routine they had planned, they will be required to do a new routine. Where they had once had spins, now they'll be doing jumps. Instead of the double axel, they'll be doing a triple toe loop. Oh, and the music will be changed, not only to a different tune, but also to a much faster tempo. The figure skater is only given one practice skate. Later that evening, they perform, but the performance doesn't go quite as planned. The skater fails the jumps and is spinning in the wrong direction. It resembles skating, somewhat, but it's messy. It's visibly difficult for the skater. The judges attempt to help the skater in real time by yelling, "Jump now! Do the spin now!" Followed by, "You missed the spin! No, you were supposed to do it differently." At the end of the performance, the judges shake their heads in disappointment and display their scorecards. 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10. The skater walks off the ice feeling like a failure. This is how it feels as students trying to learn and as employees working for the Anchorage School District. Just a few changes from this last year include the new Lions Quest program, the Q grading program, the new foundations committees, the new MTSS class, the new sexual assault awareness lessons, the new science curriculum, the new science textbooks, and the multiple schedule changes, and on and on. Changes from previous years include the Decimin analysis, Danielson training, AMP tests, and etc. So many of these programs have since been abandoned for the next shiny new toy. Students are confused. Teachers are confused. Academic performance suffers. The school board is sabotaging student performance by implementing new programs at the expense of teaching time. This is a faulty prioritization. Unfortunately, it looks like next year will be more of the same. New silver bullet programs, new schedules, which undoubtedly will be changed the following year. Absolutely no continuity for teachers or students. Change is good, but change takes time to implement and perfect. It doesn't have to be this way. Get rid of temporary silver bullet programs. Trust and allow your teacher professionals to be creative in attaining desired outcomes. They too want students to achieve more and perform better. It's why many of us went into this profession in the first place. Give us the opportunity to support and make these changes in our classrooms. Poor student performance will be solved from the bottom up by teachers working and helping students, not more from standardized testings or training new programs or mandates from people in this building who have zero contact with students. Give us time to create worthwhile programs within our own schools that we can take ownership for. Stop sabotaging our efforts to teach our students. Let us give the Anchorage community what it wants and deserves. Engage teachers and improve student performance, and let our contract for next year reflect this commitment. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker is Sharon Turner. Okay, and you can begin.
Hi, my name is Bree Dolph. This is my 18th year as a teacher with the Anchorage School District. I have taught kindergarten through 3rd grade. I have taught at multiple schools in the Anchorage School District. In my 18 years with ASD, I have never felt so undervalued and unappreciated by the administration of the Anchorage School District. I would like to share with you just one of many examples in which decisions are being made for us that we should be allowed to make for ourselves based on the best interest of our students and our classrooms. Elementary teachers do district-mandated assessments every fall, winter, and spring. These assessments are supposed to be used to guide our instruction. Therefore, after our winter district-mandated assessments, I evaluated the results of my class and made a decision of how best to address the needs of my students during our WIN intervention time. I had many students who did not meet or who just barely met the winter benchmark for math. Contrastingly, all but 2 of my students met the goal for reading, and most far exceeded the goal. I went to my grade level planning meeting in January with a plan to address the specific needs of my students in math. I was told by my principal and instructional coach that the district is mandating reading intervention during that time. I clarified that WIN stands for what I need, and was assured that yes, this is what it stands for. So again, I reiterated that based on my assessment results and informal evaluations, my students needed extra math interventions. I was again told that the district is mandating reading intervention during this time. No one from the district came in and met with my students or reviewed my test scores that I'm aware of before making this decision. A blanket decision was made based on the needs of other schools, possibly ones with low income, high transiency, and high ELL rates. My school is not a low-income school. We do not have a high transiency rate. In fact, I have lost and gained 0 children this year. And we have a very low ELL population. I have a 4-year degree in education. I have taken copious amounts of continuing education credits, yet I'm not being allowed to be a teacher and do my job based on my experience in education. I'm being expected to be a robot that is programmed by the district with 0 autonomy. I honestly feel that anybody, educated or not, professional or not, could walk into a classroom and do what the district is asking us teachers to do. They don't value our input, education, or experience. They don't respect us as professionals. This is not what is in our students' best interest. As teachers, we need to be empowered and trusted to do the job that we were hired to do. We need to be given the freedom to teach with autonomy rather than being expected to recite a script from a teacher's manual. I know better than anyone what my specific students need and should be encouraged and supported to give them the best education possible. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak and advocate for my students, and I urge the school board to push the administration to bring teaching back to teachers.
Thank you for your testimony. Elaine Daw. Elaine, thank you. Okay, and
thank you for having me this evening. My name is Sharon Turner. I live now over in Muldoon. I'm here as a grandmother and great-grandmother who's lived in Anchorage since 1974, and I know nothing currently about the inner workings and arguments about the curriculum and or the current pay scales and PERS and TERS issues and so forth. However, as just a citizen, we all know, we've read the thing about the Alaska scores being the lowest in the nation and so forth, and the per capita spending of our students equal to and or above per head as Philadelphia, Boston, and New York. I think they're ahead of us, not necessarily in scores. But that's not why I'm here tonight. I have a few questions to ask, and it's timely that the new members have just been sworn in. I have a few whys. When Planned Parenthood very cannily chooses this time frame every 24 months roughly to make their attempt at inroads into your classrooms, of which you know better than I do what your students need. That's what we've been hearing from all of these professionals and these heartfelt people. And every time they try to get the chink in the armor to get their foot in the door for more control over their inroads, we as parents and grandparents don't want you to fall for that. They have their agenda, and it's not with your kids, my grandkids' best interest at heart. The little handout that I gave you has a page. It's either the last page or the next to the last page, since I put this together on my stovetop today, and it shows some of the teachings from middle school forward that have been allowed into the Michigan schools and the Minnesota schools by other districts. And I urge you to consider the morality of that going forward. What our kids need is the help at home. Airport Heights, I just read, needs books. The kids that go to those schools, their parents are new Americans. They need help with that. If we teach our kids respect and admiration for each other, we won't need to have Planned Parenthood taking control. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Ben Walker. Okay, and when the timer starts, you can begin, Elaine.
Our new board members are joining at a difficult time in our district. You'll be facing huge challenges, including budget woes, contract negotiations, and the lowest teacher morale I've seen in 21 years. I am retiring after 19 years in ASD. I also taught in North Carolina, where I earned my county's first-year Teacher of the Year award. I hold various degrees, from an associate's in business to a master's in public librarianship, with an emphasis in children's and youth services. I jumped the hoops to become a highly qualified teacher as a librarian, not because I had to. Librarians don't. We can just be mediocre. But I wanted to stand with my colleagues as they endured this humiliation. I'm telling you this so that you'll know that you're losing an experienced, effective educator who loves learning and wants to instill that love in children. So why am I leaving? I'm leaving because I'm tired and angry, and I don't like feeling this way. I'm tired of the politics of education. So many policymakers don't understand childhood development, yet make decisions that teachers are required to implement. I'm angry that our leadership believes best practice is to use dog clickers to train our youngest children in reading. I'm tired of the multiple standardized assessments inflicted on non-standardized children. I'm angry when I see children sitting hunched over Chromebooks for hours trying to focus, only to have the hardware, software, or internet connection fail. Remember when the worst thing that could happen during a test was that your pencil tip broke? I asked some 6th graders what they thought about these tests. Several said their eyes got tired of looking at the screen for hours. Others explained they couldn't finish in one day. Some admitted they just got tired, so they answered randomly on a few questions. They all said they preferred pencil and paper to technology. I'm tired of the doublespeak. The public hears how all our children are unique people and are getting individualized instruction. Yet, teachers are now expected to follow a rigid pacing guide. All teachers on a grade level are being forced to be on the same page at the same time and have that information posted outside their door every day. It doesn't matter if students get it or not. Children will march lockstep through the curriculum. I am beyond angry when I hear that the district has no money, but miraculously is able to hire a 6-figure assistant superintendent, provide hefty raises to the suits in this building, spend tens of thousands on new curriculum, then hire a consultant to revise it, pay a consultant to come up and sell the idea of flipping start times. Isn't it interesting that we're not hearing about studies that show the adverse effects of early start times on elementary students? Pay super subs to come into schools to assess children, and pay per diem, not addenda, to instructional coaches to label new curriculum. Why not pay noon duties to put in a few extra hours to accomplish the task? There are some in this building who believe that teacher testimony is just noise to be ignored. In a few days, I will no longer be a teacher. I'll be a mom and a grandmom, but I'm not going away. I'll have more time to research, testify, and write letters.
Thank you for your testimony. Kelsey? Kelsey? Okay, and Ben, you can start when the timer comes up.
You're going to make me follow that? Good evening. My name is Ben Walker, and I'm a parent of a kindergartner and a second grader at O'Malley Elementary. I'm also finishing my 12th year teaching 7th grade science at Romig Middle School. I'm National Board Certified, Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching awardee, and I am the 2018 Alaska State Teacher of the Year. I want to talk to you tonight about using the importance of using correct language when discussing our budget, and more specifically, language's ability to mislead and misrepresent the real issues facing our district. Many people continue to talk of our current fiscal times as a financial crisis or a budget crisis. I want to be very clear when I say that the Anchorage School District does not have a budget crisis. We have a choice crisis. We are choosing to fund programs over people. We are choosing to give millions of dollars away to for-profit educational companies like National Geographic, Pearson, McGraw-Hill, Lions Quest, and Capturing Kids' Hearts, to name only a fraction. We do this while we have thousands of experts in the classroom doing what is best for all students every single day. We don't need a program to follow to fidelity. We need people in our schools to build relationships with kids. Kids are not a product. They can't be made by a program or new technology. As my friend and National Teacher of the Year, Mandy Manning, says, content is important, but relationships are paramount. The expert staff in our buildings can't build relationships with anyone, much less the most marginalized in our society, by following a script in front of 35 to 40 students 6 times a day. We can't build relationships in one-size-fits-all 90-minute reading or math blocks with 6-year-olds who need to play and explore their passions and curiosities. Every $1 million we choose to spend on outside consultants and programs is at least 10 people who could be in buildings creating relationships and working directly with kids, especially those kids that need it the most. We have schools here in Anchorage with PTAs currently raising money for positions like special education TAs and noon duties, school-based fundraising for vital positions. I leave you with a question and a challenge. As a district and as a society, we have a choice to make. Do we choose to continue to attempt to quantify our children and sort them into programs with no individual relevancy or connection to their future? Or do we realize the importance of expert professionals in the classroom and give them the support, both financial and otherwise, the agency and the autonomy we need to reach every student every day, every way possible to cultivate global, empathetic, empowered, problem-solving citizens prepared to tackle the biggest issues of our time? And the challenge, especially to our new members, please take the time to not only talk to teachers, students, and families, but to come visit our schools. Spend time with the people in our buildings, from our kindergartners to our seniors, from our principals to our noon duties. I think you will find that the choice is an easy one to make and realize the only investment that pays off is people over programs. So thank you for your time, and you're welcome in my classroom at any time.
Thank you for your testimony, Ben. Lindsay Shippen. Lindsay? Okay, and Kelsey, you can begin.
Good evening. I've been a middle school teacher in the ASD for 10 years. Multiple studies have been done on the middle school model, and they all have a common conclusion. Teaming is the most effective way to support middle school student success. To cite one, Hanover Research, a Washington, D.C. brain trust founded in 2003 and respected across multiple fields, conducted a comprehensive study of the middle school model and published its findings in 2015 in a report titled Best Practices in Middle School Design. Their key findings included that the predominant organizational structure employed in middle schools, also supported by best practice research, is team teaching. A study of effective middle schools demonstrated that they implement teacher teams, instructional cohorts that group 2 to 4 teachers with 50 to 125 students for core content instruction. Experts found that team teaching is uniquely advantageous for middle school students as it promotes student bonding and fosters closer relationships between teachers and students. Additionally, team teaching promotes interdisciplinary instruction and coordination, especially when teacher teams receive common planning time. The literature suggests that middle school staffing should reflect the unique developmental needs of young adolescents through lower student-to-staff ratios. This school board has allowed the Anchorage School District to walk away from the middle school model, which over the last 20 years they have invested millions and millions of dollars into developing. Next year, our middle schools will be middle school in name only. The common planning time necessary for the teaming model, which research shows is best for this age group of students, has been removed. Students will lose field trips and multiple interdisciplinary projects. Every sign on every mid-level building should be changed to junior high. This also seems to be a very dirty little secret that the ASD does not want the public to know. Every teacher, student, and parent in middle school knows that teaming is best for students' academic and social growth. The administration is feeding a line to staff saying, we are still addressing the needs of the whole student, so we are still middle school. This is disingenuous and dishonest. Team teaching is the required component of middle school. Without team teaching, you have given Anchorage junior high schools. And you didn't even have the decency to give them, the community, a say in the matter, and in fact have made clear efforts to mask the change. One of ASD's published core values is to be open, transparent, and accountable to the public. I call upon the Anchorage School Board to preserve the middle school model that they have worked so hard to build for the benefits of the students and community of Anchorage. At the very least, be honest with the public about what this will mean for students next school year. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Veronica Pope. Okay, and there you go.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Shippen. This is my 11th year as a teacher with the district. I'm currently at O'Malley Elementary, where I've taught kindergarten for 6 years. I personally have 2 boys, one of whom is a first grader with the district. I am highly dedicated to my students and growing my professional skills. I'm involved in curriculum alignment for social studies and have been involved in similar projects for literacy and social emotional learning. I am also a member of our school's leadership team and one of our building's teachers in charge. As you can tell, I'm highly involved and committed to my students, school, and our district. I want my students to have the best education and the best teacher in me possible. And above all, I love my job and I love living here in Anchorage. Despite all this, I am constantly thinking of leaving the teaching profession or Alaska. I began teaching in 2007, which means along with hundreds of other teachers, I am considered Tier 4. This means our only benefit upon retirement is a defined contribution plan, a sum of money. We will not have any health benefits. Teachers are also not eligible for Social Security, taking that option away for health benefits upon retirement as well. This is a huge problem for ASD and our community. Our next generation of teachers, myself included, have very little incentive to stay and retire from this district. It makes better sense for my financial future to leave the student's profession and place that I love for another profession that can offer me health benefits upon retirement, or leave the state to teach in another state. Teachers who leave represent a financial loss for the district in at least 2 ways. If vested, these teachers take all their retirement money with them. And secondly, all the money that the district spent in training them and developing them professionally. Wouldn't it make more sense to try to keep those valuable employee resources here to benefit the education of our students? If ASD wants to see the improvements in student achievement, to not be number 50, then they need to take care of the ones who have the power and are working the hardest to make that happen, the teachers. Our district needs to give Tier 4 teachers a reason to keep their talents in Anchorage and with our students. I want to see current Tier 4 employees given the option of opting into the defined benefits plan and making defined benefits or contribution a choice for all employees hired from here on out. I want to see Anchorage become a desirable district to retire from for the benefit of our students and our teachers. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Megan Card. And you can begin when there you go.
My name is Veronica Pope. I'm an ASD parent and a local preschool teacher at St. Mary's Creative Play School. I'm here to speak to you on the value of play in kindergarten. Play is vital to the development of young children. It nourishes them physically, intellectually, emotionally, socially, and academically. Play provides a whole host of opportunities for children to experience and experiment with the very concepts that you would like them to master. When working for blocks, as an example, children are exposed to shapes, gravity, geometry, basic addition and subtraction, even multiplication, measurement, balance, and grouping. Also gained are cooperation, problem solving, language acquisition, development, and problem solving skills. Young children who are denied the right to play become restless, have difficulty focusing, experience reduced concentration, and develop what many untrained adults consider behavior issues. Instead of becoming young minds eager to learn, they become discipline issues that adults need to manage. When teachers need to manage behavior, they're no longer teaching. They're no longer teaching the intended material that you have paid for. It's not teaching when you're behaving, when you're redirecting. Teaching is connecting and influencing children when they're engaged and ready to learn. Play is not a time filler, and it's not something that can be cut from a daily class schedule without serious repercussions. I recently visited the Bing School at Stanford University, and they believe in the 3 C's: competence, control, and choice. This is a half-day program, and these children are complete control of their bodies, fully competent in their skills and abilities, and they are engaged learners. They all learn this through play. In a 3.5-hour program, they dedicate a full 2 hours of their time to uninterrupted play. Their staff inquired how long our program allowed for free play, and when I told them 1 hour, they said it's not enough, that we needed to go back and increase our amount of free play. If you won't listen to Stanford, I ask you, who will you listen to? No matter what curriculum you subscribe to, please allow play to be your constant, your true north when you plan future curriculums. It's all-encompassing. Play provides opportunities for everyone to excel, for everyone to learn and grow. Play is for the highly gifted and for the developmentally delayed. It's the ultimate equalizer. Perhaps best of all, you should know that budget-wise, play is absolutely free. It's a wise investment. Our children are a wise investment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Brian Mason. And when the clock comes up, you can begin, Megan.
My name is Megan Card. I teach at Greening Middle School, and I'm a 2017 BP Teacher of Excellence finalist. I would like to thank all of the educators who are here tonight in solidarity to share our needs and concerns with the board. I'd like to thank the board for listening. And as my fellow educators know, this job is getting harder and harder every year. You've heard a lot of the challenges tonight. I'm so proud of my colleagues across all levels and what they've accomplished, what they've helped their students do in spite of all these challenges. I had a whole thing planned, but after hearing Ben and Elaine and Kelsey and countless other teachers whose names I can't even remember at this point, I don't even think I need to make all these points. I think the biggest thing that I hope the school board hears is that teachers are frustrated. Teachers feel as though their hands are tied. I want to help my students, I want to teach my students, and I feel like I cannot do that. And that's an awful feeling. We're held powerless. You need to turn some control over to teachers. Academic freedom. Classes change from year to year. I've lost track of how many subjects since I have 6 HQTs, and in 10 years of middle school teaching, I've never had the same schedule twice. And time again, whether I'm teaching facts, whether I'm teaching algebra, whether I'm teaching 6th grade science, some things remain the same. Teachers know their kids best. Programs don't teach kids, teachers do. Canned curriculum do not give us authentic voices to build relationships with their students. Data, this obsession with data, please kick it to the curb. My students are not a test score. A test score, quite frankly, has never helped me understand my students. When I walk down the halls, a measure of success for me is not a test score. It's a student who I've never had in class, but who knows my name, who stops to talk to me, who I have an influence in their life, even though they've never once sat in my classroom. That, to me, is what's going to change education, not a test score. The district needs to create a healthy learning environment. Teachers affect students. Teachers have done a lot. Teachers have been told more and more to do less with more. To do more with less? I don't even know anymore. If you want students to be successful, you need to give the teachers the tools to be successful. It's no surprise to me, you've heard time and time again, teachers are moving out of state, teachers are retiring early. We love our jobs, we love our students, but we are being held back by the district that's supposed to support us. I would echo Ben's invite. You're welcome in my classroom anytime. Come watch drama with 32 8th graders. I would welcome, I'm sure, you to come to my classroom and see what we do. Please, come in and see. I think it's time for a reality check. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Eva Straight. Is Eva here? And Brian, you can begin when the clock comes up.
Hello, my name is Brian Mason, and I'm a teacher at Chugach High School, but tonight I'm primarily here as a parent. My two sons are in the district in 2nd and 4th grade. They've generally had a wonderful experience in ASD so far, and I credit this to the wonderful teachers they have had. As an example, last year in 1st grade, my youngest son had a teacher who was truly transformative in his life and who helped my son develop a love of learning. As has become all too frequent, though, she became one of the many young educators who have left our district in recent years due to better opportunities elsewhere. I'm truly thankful that my son had her as a teacher, but I grieve the fact that students in the future years will not have the privilege of having this gifted educator. As I look forward to what is to come in my son's education, I find myself for the first time being more discouraged, more worried than hopeful. In the near term, my sons are looking at losing social studies and science education as the district implements a highly scripted curriculum that strips teachers not only of time, but of the freedom to use their creativity and professional training to meet the needs of their students. While I fully understand the vital importance of reading and writing skills at a young age, hands-on science and relevant social studies lessons are a key part of what keeps student minds and hearts engaged. At the high school level, we are hemorrhaging electives and enrichment opportunities. In the past few years in my school, we have cut myriad social studies and English electives, and moving into next year, we are cutting photography, computer-aided drafting, and others. Just last week, we made the preliminary decision to cut our biotechnology program, a program that started with a donation of tens of thousands of dollars in equipment, followed by a voter-approved bond that provided us with a state-of-the-art laboratory space unmatched by any in the state of Alaska. This space will now sit empty, though, depriving our students of an incredible opportunity to prepare for rigorous, high-level scientific work at the college level and beyond. When I started this job, I primarily did it because I enjoyed it. I love working with teenagers. I enjoy my content area, and every day I find something to smile and to laugh about. Over the past decade, though, I have come to truly believe in the power of education to transform lives. I love this job, and I believe in what we do. But for the first time in my career, I find myself feeling discouraged by the state of our schools. I fear, sadly, that in a few years' time, when I talk to my sons about their own high school experience, that I will be forced to tell them about how much better it was when I was a student in ASD, about how many more opportunities I had. I don't think I need to tell any of you that this is not the way it should be. We should be getting better. We should be adding opportunities, not removing them. I thank all of you for your service on the school board. I believe that you're all here with the right motivations and that likely everyone in this room can agree that we want what is best for our schools and, by extension, for our children. I know that there are very real budgetary constraints and thus no easy choices. I do not claim to know the solution, but I do know that it doesn't include cutting teachers, increasing class sizes, and reducing options that engage students. It doesn't include giving teachers a script to read and preventing them from using their creativity and professional training to meet the needs of their students. But I know that it does include supporting and retaining effective educators. My sons do not need more programs for their teachers to deliver. They need educators who feel supported, who have the resources they need to do their job, and who stick with the profession because they couldn't imagine working anywhere else. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Michael Corvington. Michael. Okay. Thank you. Eva, you can start when the clock.
Hello, my name is Eva, Eva Straight. I work for the school district. I drive a school bus, and I have for almost as long as I've been in Alaska, which is about 12 years. I also have 12 grandchildren, so I'm here as more as a grandmother than as a school bus driver. My daughters followed us up here. We followed one, then she came back, Air Force stuff. But we have 12 grandchildren here, 9 of which are school district or school age. None of which are in the school district right now. Our daughters have chosen to take them out and homeschool them. a big part of that factor is the values that are apparently being forced upon them. The fact that sexual education is being provided by Planned Parenthood is counter to our values, to my daughter's values, their family. Planned Parenthood is very proud to tell us that they provide 97% of abortions in the state of Alaska. I don't like that value. I don't think it's what most families are wanting their kids to have as the basis of sex education. I don't think it's appropriate to expose that even to the younger children. And is one of the other people passed out, you can see some of the literature that Planned Parenthood is giving to the nurses in the school district. I believe that we need, as a school district, to look at other options, including chastity-based programs. I think that parents are the primary educators of children. School district is here to support parents in raising the children. You need to listen to their parents. You need to engage them in who they want, teaching such a moral part of the classroom experience. And as our Teacher of the Year, Ben, pointed out, Planned Parenthood is one of those for-profit organizations. So I would look at the motivation behind their material as well. And I want to go on record as being the first person done before 3 minutes are up.
Thank you for your testimony. If I could have Pat Martin. And you can begin when the time starts.
My name is Michael Horvitson. I'm a retired Air Force. I'm a single parent. I work in safety and security industry. And that's one of my biggest concerns, is with safety and security of our children, which goes to this new implementation or attempted implementation, and it better not be implemented, is a sex education with Planned Parenthood leading the way. Right now, after the testimony I've heard today, I can't trust the school district when it comes to English, when it comes to math, when it comes to additional programs. Everything's being cut. Teachers are leaving. And you want me to entrust the school district with the sex education of my children? No. Do not let them in. Do not let the coercion of children to participate in sexual behavior before they're ready. That's coercion. That's a sexual crime. In 2006, the UN World Report on Violence Against Children, there can be no compromise in challenging violence against children. Children's uniqueness, their human potential, their initial fragility and vulnerability, their dependence on adults for their growth and development make an unassailable case for more, not less, investment in prevention and protection from violence. Child abuse can be committed by individuals, institutions, communities, and or societies. A common factor in all forms of child abuse is an abuse of power. Additional forms of maltreatment against children, human trafficking and exploitation, is defined as using children and youth for the benefit of the more powerful person with no regard of the harm being caused to the young person. Planned Parenthood does not belong in our schools. Intimate partner violence, defined by Center for Disease Control. Stalking. Planned Parenthood is stalking our children. Exerting control, coercion, intimidation, threats, minimizing harm. Telling them, it's not that bad. You can do it. You don't need parental permission. No, they're not Planned Parenthood's children. They're ours. And we are responsible to make sure that they grow up to be responsible adults. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Jan Berland. Jan? Okay. And Pat, you can begin.
Good evening. My name is Pat Martin. I represent Alaska Right to Life. And I met a young couple last month. They were young. They were very young. They were pregnant. They were scared. And of course, they weren't married. And, you know, if I'm honest, they weren't old enough to be married. And like so many others in similar situations, they didn't know where to turn for help or support except to Planned Parenthood. And, you know, that wouldn't be so bad if Planned Parenthood helped them create a parenting plan for their child. But they didn't. It wouldn't be so bad if Planned Parenthood offered prenatal care and counseling. But they don't. And it wouldn't be so bad if Planned Parenthood didn't perform abortions. But they do. And that's all they offered that young couple. And if that weren't bad enough, that same Planned Parenthood organization boasts of killing 97% of the Alaskan babies that die in abortion every single year. And I know what you're thinking. I really do. And yes, they really do. They really do kill 97% of the children killed by abortion, and they really do brag about it. And if even that weren't bad enough, that same Planned Parenthood organization that offers no help, no support, no prenatal care, and profits by killing 97% of Alaska's abortion victims, they just taught sex ed at Benny Benson on April 23rd. And they did that in violation of the law, by the way, by providing only 5 days' notice to the parents. We have some flyers that are going around. We're glad to share them with you. And according to these flyers that Planned Parenthood distributes around the Anchorage School District, kids under your care need to learn that it's not a crime to have sex with a 16-year-old if you're under 20. It's not a crime to carry naked pictures of your girlfriend on your phone so long as she's over 16. You don't need a prescription to buy abortion-causing drugs or even have a full surgical abortion without your parents' permission, and at any age. And according to some Planned Parenthood sex ed curriculum, sexual activity, again at any age, has been reduced to the moral equivalent of sharing a cup of tea. You can't make this up. Ladies and gentlemen, when you allow an organization that profits by killing innocent children in the womb to teach anything in our schools, let alone the ethics, morality, and mechanics of sexual activity, you've fallen well short of doing the very best that you can for those under your care and instruction. Regardless of how many schools, how many classes, and how many students have been subjected to Planned Parenthood presentations so far, we are here to tell you that one school, one class, and even one student is one too many. We are here to urge you to cancel any pending Planned Parenthood presentations and to forever protect our kids from any organization that equates the morality and consequences of underage sex to that of a cup of tea and profits from the killing of innocent human beings that are so often the consequence of that underage sexual activity. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. I think this next name is Jerry. Oh, okay. Thanks, Jerry. Come on up. And Jan, you can begin when the clock starts.
Hello, my name is Jan DeLand. I'm a lifelong Alaskan. I'm a mother and grandparent of children here in Anchorage. I would like to address involving Planned Parenthood with the education of our children. We should ask a few questions. What is Planned Parenthood? Planned Parenthood is one of the wealthiest nonprofits in the United States, which has its roots in racism and eugenics, with its racist founder, Margaret Sanger, who started the Negro Project and was once a speaker for the KKK. Planned Parenthood now runs the largest abortion chain in the United States. They've killed an average of 328,302 babies per year over the last 8 years. Planned Parenthood is classified as a non-profit, so they don't make a profit, but they do have a lot of excess revenue over expenses. It's one of the wealthiest nonprofits in the United States. Their top 68 employees take home $18.1 million a year. Abortion is big business. How do they get their money? Planned Parenthood receives more than $500 million from the American taxpayers every year. $43.7 million just last year. Abortion accounts for 68% of Planned Parenthood's non-government income. They claim that abortion accounts for 3% of their services, but it's an accounting trick done by bundling and unbundling services. How do they increase their customer base? Well, the curriculum that Planned Parenthood uses for education for children is often graphic, violent, and non-age appropriate. They sexualize the children, encourage them to explore sexual acts, get them on birth control, and when the birth control fails, they sell them abortions. Planned Parenthood has been caught numerous times covering up statutory rape instead of reporting it, which is mandatory by law. What is Planned Parenthood's new source of income? Well, numerous scandals have been exposed at Planned Parenthood, so the abortion rate is in decline. Planned Parenthood has had to close more abortion clinics than they've opened. The new source of revenue, hormones to children. The administration of hormones to children can cause cancer. It can damage them for life, interrupting the normal processes in their bodies, instilling doubt and confusion in their God-given identities and the science that's contained in their DNA. Planned Parenthood has already implemented this scheme in 17 states, according to, but imposing this...
You could have Amelia Gilliland. And Jerry, you can begin when the time clock starts. Go ahead.
The love of parents to their children is the biggest, and parents should have total control on children. You cannot give care of children to company that is killing 1,200,000 children per year. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And Craig? Craig? Oh, okay. Thank you. And Amelia, you can begin when the clock. Oh, now.
Hello, my name is Amelia Gilliland, and I'm here to speak about some very serious concerns I have about the sex education program in our schools. Namely, it has recently come to my attention that our schools are using Planned Parenthood's sex education curriculum in our Anchorage schools. There is much that could be said about this, but for the sake of time, I will just highlight one point to demonstrate the opposing philosophies of Planned Parenthood and Alaska's state laws on education. I have here a flyer that I know has been referenced several times now this evening. This flyer here has been used by Planned Parenthood marketing to our school nurses, and I hope each one of you have had an opportunity to take a look at it up close, otherwise I'm sure we can pass this around. But the way that this information is presented in this flyer normalizes having sex at a young age and not having your parents or authorities involved in your sexuality decision making. Things like whether or not you're going to use birth control, whether or not you have a sexually transmitted disease and what kind of treatment needs to go into that, whether or not the parents are not involved in even being aware that maybe their children or their daughter is having to use an emergency contraceptive pill. This flyer clearly communicates to teens that parents do not need to be involved in the decisions they make about their sexuality. And even further than that, their parents do not even need to know anything about their sexual lives. This flyer promotes the facts that, again, like I said, they can get birth control without their parents' or guardians' permission. They can have emergency contraception without a prescription. And they can get an abortion, which is a medical procedure, without their parents' permission. They are promoting no parental involvement in important decisions teens make that will affect their lives for years to come. This flies right in the face of Alaska statute, section 14.3.16, regarding a parent's right to direct the education of the parent's child, which I will just have to summarize for the sake of time again, but it stresses over and over again the importance of parents being involved in their children's education. Clearly, in the state of Alaska, our laws encourage a parent's involvement in the education of their children. And as a school board, each of you have a responsibility to uphold these laws. A very important part of educating children, particularly teens, is guiding them through making important life decisions. And yet, we are allowing an organization to provide sex education to our children when they are clearly trying to separate youth navigating these important decisions from their parents' guiding influence. You as a school board and we as a community cannot allow an organization that does not value parents' involvement in their children's lives to promote their curriculum in our schools, which by law are again required to encourage parental involvement. I urge you to recognize Planned Parenthood's disregard for parents' involvement in their children's lives and choose sex education curriculum that will truly empower parents and encourage their involvement in their teens' lives. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Lisa Sparrow. And you can begin.
Hello, my name is Craig Gilliland. It came to my attention that representatives of Planned Parenthood were allowed to distribute Planned Parenthood materials at a school nurse training program last year, which the ASD school nurses attended. I understand that this school nurses training was hosted by the Department of Education and Early Development and the Alaska Division of Public Health. When I read this flyer, I see the information is true. Yet it is also propaganda promoting sexual activity in junior high and high school students. Seeing this meeting is being recorded for public viewing, I'm going to hold up the flyer so that mothers, fathers, guardians can see it. For their benefit, because it may be difficult to read, I will read some of the things that this flyer promotes. You do not need to get a permission from your parents or guardian at any age to get an abortion. STDs, HIV testing, and treatment. You do not need permission from your parents or guardian to get tested or treated for STDs and HIV at any age. The age of minority and consent for sex. The age of consent is 16. It is not a crime if you are under 16 to have sex with a person who is less than 3 years older than you are. Well, those may be true, but isn't this propaganda? Is this what parents and guardians would want the school nurses to who interface with their children to be promoting to them? Or might they prefer their children hear a message about abstinence? After all, with abstinence, there are no STDs transmitted, no teenage pregnancies, and more healthy students. Although the information in the flyer is true, it seems Planned Parenthood has found a way to exploit children of the Anchorage School District to further the Planned Parenthood agenda, which is more premarital teenage sex, which, regardless of which type of birth control is used that they may promote, is never 100% effective. If Planned Parenthood is allowed unfettered access to Anchorage School District nurses to provide and promote their materials, then Planned Parenthood is the de facto sex education curriculum provider to ASD. Then ASD is implicit in their acceptance of this type of sex education material. Is this what you want to promote? It's not what I want for my daughters. In wrap-up, Tammy and Kathleen mentioned the many accomplishments they had achieved while providing their final report card earlier in the meeting tonight. They've done many good things, but one thing they mentioned was their implementation of a program to prevent sexual predators from access to Anchorage School District facilities. Based on the Planned Parenthood flyer I present, possibly this one accomplishment should be rescinded. After all, if, and I quote, "It is not a crime if you are under 16 to have sex with a person who is less than 3 years older than you are," then which sexual predators are you preventing access to ASD facilities? Has the ASD been open, honest, transparent about Planned Parenthood materials being used to teach sex education in the Anchorage School District?
Thank you for your testimony. Jen Stansel? Jen? Oh, here she comes. And Lisa, you can begin when the, you can begin now.
Hello, my name is Lisa Sparrow, and I'm an elementary school teacher at ASD. I'm here to ask the new and current members of the school board for help in getting our school district back to a place where the expectations for children are developmentally appropriate. I teach kindergarten and first grade and often wonder if the adults who wrote the standards for kindergarten and first grade have ever been around any 5 or 6-year-olds. In kindergarten, children begin the year by learning letter names, sounds, and letter formations, and then are supposed to be able to seamlessly move into writing sentences and reading by the end of the year. That is a big jump. Yes, some children can do it because they are compliant enough and want to please their parents and teachers. Others are not able to and lose confidence or become disruptive. There's no reason to rush reading and writing. Children who are ready to read can be given the opportunity, and for most children in a year or two, they will be ready. In an article by William Stixrud and Ned Johnson titled Teach Kids When They're Ready, the authors state, "We now teach reading to 5-year-olds even though evidence shows it's more efficient to teach them to read at 7, and that any advantage gained by kids who learn to read early washes out later in childhood. What was once advanced work for a given grade is now considered the norm. The fact is that while schools have changed, children haven't. Today's 5-year-olds are no more fundamentally advanced than their peers in 1925 when we started measuring such things." In the first grade, the academic expectations continue to ramp up. The district's new reading curriculum, Reach for Reading, has 192 sight words in first grade. These are all tricky words that cannot be sounded out using regular letter sounds. Additionally, children are expected to write 5-sentence paragraphs with an opening sentence, 3 supporting details, and a concluding sentence. We are asking children to do things they are not ready for, and they are missing out on learning opportunities they are ready for. Next year, the district wants to increase the 90-minute language block to allow more time for language. Teachers have been told that there will be less time for science and social studies. Even math takes a second seat to language and is given less time in the day. This is very sad. The things we all know that children love and excel at, exploring and interacting with their world, and the subject they are more developmentally ready for, math, are the very things they are being denied. In the article titled Reading at 5, Why?, author Joan Allman says, "We need less didactic instruction and testing and a more vigorous education model that prepares children for the 21st century, which is often described as the century of imagination and creativity. The children are ready. Are you?"
Thank you for your testimony. How about Ken Norris? Is it Ken? Okay. And Jen, you can begin.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Stansel, and I'm a special education teacher in my 5th year of serving students with autism. I haven't decided if I will be teaching next year, but regardless of my future, I have some important feedback that can help improve students' futures. This is my 2nd year with ASD, and I've spent both years in a structured learning classroom supported by 3 teachers' aides. In those 2 years, I've worked with 9 different TAs in those 3 positions. With the exception of our current employees, all of the previous TAs left their positions for higher paying jobs outside of the district. In my role, I spent anywhere from 5 to 10 hours per week working directly or indirectly with TAs before school, after school, during lunches, during breaks, and during class. This support may look like feedback regarding implementation of a behavior intervention plan, how to calculate the hypotenuse of a right angle, or, right triangle, math teachers, or communicating with which students need individual help that day. I also address logistical issues such as creating and revising a schedule for each day of the week, unique because of our ever-changing block schedule, which specifies how 3 TAs will constantly supervise 5 intensive needs students spread throughout 3 to 4 different classrooms at any given point in the day, and also time for lunch. I asked for help with this schedule puzzle. One leader suggested that all my students should spend their day in 1 classroom rather than 7, so that it would be easier for me to arrange the staff schedules. He was suggesting that students should be removed from their academically appropriate classes and placed in an inclusion classroom. Inclusion means that students stay in the same room with the same teacher for most of the day with limited opportunities to interact with their general education peers. There's a lot of reasons why this might be a good setting for a child, but difficulty arranging the schedule should never be one of them. Instead, ASD needs to recognize that it's no easy task to organize a group of people to provide consistent, focused academic instruction, but it's a task that somehow has not been delegated. There's no clear contractual language to guide who's responsible for organizing teachers' aides, and as a result, it's not happening. Or one person is doing a lot for little and not because they have to. We also need to address the fundamental issue of TA retention. TA positions are notoriously difficult to fill with high rates of turnover and stress. We pair some of our district's least prepared employees with our most challenging students. As a result, the district began implementing a new TA training in this current academic year. I applaud this effort. Unfortunately, I've not yet seen the effects of this training, as learning is quickly forgotten when there's no opportunity for guided practice, feedback, or reinforcement of skills.
But here's what ASD can do moving forward. Host weekly skill building sessions lasting no more than 15 minutes, which cover basic instructional strategies such as how to deliver positive, specific feedback, clear contract language, and addendum for certificated staff members who are willing to organize schedules, provide training, and facilitate TA team meetings. Plan structured time for all teachers to collaborate with the TAs in their classroom. Allow teachers to provide input regarding content of district's TA trainings. Evaluate TA staff regularly to ensure best teaching practices and guide improvement, and offer fair pay to help retain quality teachers' aides.
Thank you for your testimony. Pat Higgins. And you can begin when the clock comes up.
Thanks. So first off, I understand you guys all started at 4 or something like that. Earlier? Okay. So congratulations on sitting through this. And is that true for you all as well? Yeah. Wow. I'm amazed you're awake. Thanks for paying attention. Hopefully this won't be too painful. I think you've heard most of it before, but I'm going to assume that you're all up here on this board and you're all over here as administrators, and almost everyone in this room, and were inspired to do what you do by a teacher. And I'm going to take a guess that with that statement, you have somebody in mind. You're all thinking of who was the teacher that influenced you the most. I'm going to ask you rhetorically, because I know you can't answer. Was that the teacher who did exactly what every other teacher did? I don't work for the school district. I'm a family physician. I have 4 daughters who attend the school district, a couple in high school and a couple in elementary. And I became concerned when I listened to the teachers at my local elementary talk about the change in how strictly programmed their instructional time and instructional methods are going to be. I know the teacher that inspired me, and it wasn't giving the same lesson as every other teacher. It wasn't giving it with the exact same gestures where a swoosh and a swipe are not the same. It just wasn't. I know that my daughters each responded to a different teacher and a different instructional style. And I'm going to bet that that's true for every single member of the board. I'm going to bet that that's true for everyone sitting over on this side of the building. And I'm going to bet that's true for everyone sitting behind me. And I'm incredibly concerned that if we take academic liberty out of the classroom, we'll also take out the learning. And when we program down to the point of the exact gesture that a teacher is supposed to make, I find that incredibly concerning. And personally, I have some thoughts about gestures. Guys, you've sat here with a lot of folks who are a little bit irate, and you've been here since 2:30. That's more than a full work day, and I know most of you had a work day before that. It's hard to pay attention for that long. Thank you. I hope you'll take some of this to heart, and it will be shown in what happens with our school district the next couple of years.
Thank you for your testimony. When the clock starts, you can start, Pat. Next person is Philip Walters. Sorry, I was getting carried away. I was at the end of one page, but I have another one.
Thank you. Introductions-wise, I'm Pat Higgins, and it was been 1 year since I've been in this building, in this location anyway, in the school board meeting. Of course, it was 1 year ago that I stepped down from the school board after 9 years. It was disappointing to see Kathleen step down after 9 years, because I realized, and I made a joke about this, is that the 9-year pin that they started with me is now not the only one, and I was looking forward to going to pawn stores and seeing what I could get out of it, and it's probably devaluated quite a bit. I decided to stay here later today and just go ahead and address, particularly congratulate the new school board members, the officers, on your selection, and wish you the very best. And I just want to make a few comments real quick, though. When I got on the school board, we looked for opportunity to changes in what we can do, but we didn't accomplish anything. All we did was make it possible for the teachers and the staff directly involved with the students to make a difference. What we did or what we didn't do had an outcome, and that outcome, though, was in the classrooms. It's with the teachers. It's those directly involved with the students, because if we're not getting the graduation rates, the academic improvements, the social emotional learning, all that aspects, we haven't accomplished much. And what hits me right now is the unfortunate situation with the funding and the support you're getting and the opportunities lost. I saw the Picus-Odom study. I saw the things that you would have, the 60 million more for teachers. You just did something for safety, and counselors play a key role in that. What they're telling you, the professionals, are identifying and intervening with kids who are under stress is the thing that you need most for safety, which was not addressed in your safety review, and that's not there. I look towards some of the things we did on the board. When we had 1 year where we had the summer school for elementary, we looked at it and we had a 19% academic improvement for kids that went to summer school. The following year, what we did is we recognized that, and we did it for all kids academically behind. And it worked great. And next year after that, we dropped it because we didn't have enough money for the 9 months. We couldn't focus on anything else. There needs to be an education out there from the public, what you need and how you would use it. It's not enough to say we're underfunded. It's not enough to say we need more teachers in our classroom sizes. When I got on the school board, 32 states had maximum effective classroom sizes. Today it's more. They're looking at preschool. Alaska's way behind. And when you hear that we're the biggest funded school district in the country, you need to call it BS. They tried that with San Francisco. They tried it with Seattle. You tear apart the budget, you see they don't include bonds. They don't include transportation. They don't include other costs. It's not true. But the facts are that we compare ourselves with the Picus-Odom study, which is staffing size and what we're using. You will find over and over again we are under that group, and we are behind. We are behind substantially. So the fact that I congratulate the superintendent on saying, regardless of funding, we're going for the goals. It's time to also educate the public and to strike down some of these false, misleading statements that are attacking the staff and the school district and undermining public education. You need to take that on. But when you do it, don't just tell them we need more money. Make sure you got a plan. Make sure you say, if you had $109 million more today, what are you going to do? Don't let them focus only on the fact that oil prices are low and they don't want to increase revenues. It's time to say your job is fighting for kids, and it's noble, it's important, you're going to affect lives. Don't take anything less than that. And it's time to fight back against false statements and outright lies. I know I'm way over my 3 minutes. I just want to say again, congratulations, and I look forward to the fact that you have a great opportunity to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Pat. Abby Belts. Abby, is it okay? And Philip, you can begin.
Thank you. Members of the school board, Madam President, Superintendent Bishop, good evening. I'd like to begin by thanking you, Superintendent Bishop, for your support of the music program at Sonic Boom last Thursday, both as MC and a guest director for the cacophonous Sonic Boom. The students, teachers, and parents appreciate your presence there, and as a music teacher in the school district for 13 years, I truly appreciate your support of the arts. I wish I was here tonight under better circumstances. Instead, I am here to once again take issue with the ASD's handling of contract negotiations. I will ignore, for now, the 0.25% raise that has been proposed over the next 3 years. It's so ridiculous it's barely worth mentioning. I will ignore the lack of health coverage beyond preposterous, explained away in an email from HR last week as merely the result of a lack of information from the Health Trust. Information that's never been needed before in order to put together an initial contract proposal. It's a blatant attempt to strong-arm the union in contract negotiations, perhaps even to eventually force AEA members into joining ASD's own, more expensive yet struggling health plan. Subtlety is not a strong suit of the ASD negotiation team. That leads me to why I am here. I would like to know what ASD has to hide. Why has ASD refused open bargaining, where any member of ASD, AEA, or the public can attend, much like tonight, and hear what's being discussed on both sides of the negotiation table? I have my own theories developed from conversations with previous marketing team members who speak of malicious attacks by ASD directors, attacks that would never be dared or considered acceptable in a public forum, but attacks that can be whisked away under the guise of secrecy of negotiations past. What is ASD trying to hide? Be true to the ASD core values. Make it all open and transparent so the public can see what their taxes are funding. Why is ASD playing games? We have serious work to do. By the March 30th deadline, more than 4 times the usual number of retirements and resignations have been filed, from roughly 35 to over 120. More people are leaving our district, our state, to seek employment elsewhere. Our own former union president, Brenna Langford, is leaving the state so that she can pursue employment in a state that apparently values education more than ours. I will be working 3 different jobs this summer to make ends meet so I can raise my family, including a Ravenwood student, and continue to live and work in this place that we love. Why is ASD playing games? We have serious work to do. I have talked with many ASD teachers this year, and without fail, one thing we can agree on is that this has been one of the toughest years we've had. Why is ASD playing games? We have serious work to do. We are facing a serious budget crisis. As teachers do, we power on, trying to do the best we can with ever-dwindling resources and ever-increasing class sizes. ASD and AEA should be on the same side with the same focus, doing what is best for kids. Doing what is best for kids, first and foremost, means getting and keeping quality teachers in the classroom. With massive teacher strikes occurring across the country, this is a lousy time for triviality. Why is ASD playing games? We must open bargaining for the sake of transparency. We have serious work to do. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Allison Stengel. And Abby, you can begin when the clock comes up.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak about my job tonight. For 12 years, I've served students with cognitive impairment. Working with people who experience disabilities has really become my life's passion, to be honest. My heart bursts when I see a student finally write his name legibly after 2 years of practicing. My heart breaks when I have to make the decision to leave a student behind from a field trip because he used physical aggression to express himself rather than words. I was brought to tears when a general education student walked across a classroom to tell one of my students he was retarded in what seemed like a dumb dare with his buddies. It's my duty to advocate for my students in every situation that's unjust. Too often I have felt like I've had to advocate for my students against my employer. Yet again, I'm deeply disturbed by some of the trends hitting special education in this district that seem to label students as price tags and not people. Each intensively funded IEP in my classroom raises $77,090 for our district. Not every IEP is intensively funded. Basically, it's for the students who need special education services from the moment they step off the bus until the moment they step back on the bus. In my classroom alone, this is almost $400,000. Last year, I received $100 in a budget for food for my classroom. That's the only budget money I was allocated. Where's the money going? It doesn't seem to be filtering down to the classrooms that are serving the students. Related services like physical therapy and occupational therapy have primarily become collaboration model at the secondary level. This means little time is spent working directly with students. However, Medicaid is being billed for the PT and OT services. It seems again like the priority has moved from working with students to billing time observing students. Again, from my perspective, it seems like the students' disabilities is being used to raise money for the district. Even more alarming, at many secondary schools, it's becoming the trend to combine life skills programs and structured learning programs into one classroom. How is one teacher reasonably supposed to support students in 7th grade life skills curriculum, 8th grade life skills curriculum, 7th grade English, Math, Science, Social Studies, and 8th grade English, Math, Science, Social Studies, along with also addressing behavioral, social, and communication weaknesses that are evident with these populations? Does combining a non-diploma program with a diploma program seem like a decision based on students' needs, or a way to reduce the teachers' the teaching size? I do not stand in front of price tags each day. I stand in front of students who have unique personalities, abilities, and needs. I'm almost finished. Please do not treat my students as second-class citizens in their own education. I've become disillusioned with needing to advocate for my students to get the education they deserve. It's been a difficult decision, but I've chosen not to return to the classroom next year. With the increased demands put on teachers each year, lack of common sense in decision-making by management, and needing to advocate for students for their fair shake, frankly, I'm burned out. I'd like to end with a quote that's posted outside my classroom door. How we walk with the broken speaks louder than how we sit with the great. Please consider how this district is walking with its most vulnerable students.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Bradley Kerr. Bradley? Okay, and Abby, or Allison, sorry, you can begin.
Good evening. My name's Allison Stengel, and I'm the Language Arts Department Chair at Baggage Middle School. The last time I spoke to you in October, my testimony centered on what's best for kids. Tonight, I'm here to address the upcoming contract negotiations and how closely the end result of that determines what's best for kids. In 2014, middle school elective teachers were mandated to teach 6 classes each, while core teachers continued teaching 5. It was unfair and unethical. I said nothing and I did nothing because I wasn't an elective teacher and it didn't affect me, and that was wrong. We thought it would end there. We thought there was no way that core teachers could ever be expected to teach 6 classes with no compensation until this year. My core students increased from 100 to 125. Next year, I will teach at least 150 core students. My workload has considerably increased. As an English teacher, I grade extensive essays, tests, projects, and presentations. An essay takes, on average, 4 minutes to grade, and that's me being generous. Therefore, 150 essays will take me about 10 hours or 600 minutes to grade. A substantial amount of my personal time has to be used in order to grade and return essays to my students numerous times a year. You're asking what this has to do with students, and you're thinking, this is what you signed up for, this is what it means to be a teacher, but you're wrong. I didn't sign up to be part of a profession that works hard to ensure the education of every student without receiving the compensation that I deserve. I teach my students that they will be successful in life if they work hard and live up to their potential. I encourage them to look forward to a future where their hard work will pay off. I challenge them to demand what's right in the world and never to settle for less. Yet, I stand in front of them a hypocrite. I'm overworked, underappreciated, and underpaid. My colleagues and I have learned that the burden does, in fact, increase even when we don't think it's possible. We have been mandated to do more work with less people without any compensation for it. Is this the future that we want for our kids? We're sending a terrible message to them. The harder you work, the heavier the burden will become, and you will be expected to accept it for free. We're teaching our kids that they're growing up to enter a world that doesn't recognize or reward hard work. We're teaching our kids not to appreciate talent and effort by refusing to provide our teachers with what we deserve. More than a dozen ASD administrators got pay raises of 10% or more this year. I want to know what these administrators are doing for kids that deem them worthy of a salary increase, while my colleagues and I juggle to plan, teach, and grade while opening our doors to students during our personal time because they need us. We're in the trenches making a conscious difference on a daily basis. And I'm not asking for anything I don't deserve. I just want to know when I'm going to be compensated for the effort I put into my career, because it's only been getting worse. What's best for kids is for them to see they're entering a just world that will reward their efforts, not take advantage of them, and I look forward to open bargaining and a fair contract. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Jessica and Bradley, I believe you can say you see the clock.
Good evening. I first off want to thank all of the courageous folks that stood strong today side by side in support of a greater good. Your mission to connect, enlighten, and stand up for public education has inspired me and many others alike to be willing to do whatever it takes for a fair and equitable contract. I support Red for Ed and AK Teachers United. My name is Brad Keir, and I'm a 7th grade science teacher at Greening Middle School. I come before you today along with several of my colleagues at Greening and others from around the district to hopefully open up your ears, minds, and hearts to an absolute travesty we have unfolding before us. This travesty I'm referring to is the destruction of the Anchorage School District. I traveled with my new bride from Montana in 2008 to this great state of Alaska in search of giant rainbow trout and a bright future as an educator. Well, let me say, I found those giant rainbows, and I am desperately still searching for a bright future as an educator. Why have I been made to feel from day one that I should have been here 20 years ago to start my teaching career? I cannot tell you how many times I have heard the phrase, "Ooh, sorry, you're tier 3. Fast forward 10 years. This school year has been, by and large, the worst year I've experienced professionally. The resulting stress and strain, unfortunately, has infiltrated my personal life and caused unwarranted hardships. I have heard this same statement come from many of my colleagues' mouths as well. The message is the same regardless if it is from a second-year, 10-year, or 20-year teacher. This school year was horrible. Some excellent teachers have made the very difficult decision to uproot their families and are leaving the district or the state completely, changing professions, and even retiring early just to get out of the profession they used to feel respected in and that they loved. They are not doing this because they are tired of teaching. They are doing this because they are done with ASD. Other teachers have either been in the district too long to bail now, are seriously contemplating leaving, or have not quite figured out how bad it really is or that it is going to get worse unless substantial changes are made. The Anchorage School District does not respect their teachers. Teacher committees are formed and ignored. Canned programs are forced upon us that fail, replacing teacher academic freedom. Standardized tests after standardized tests are mandated, stealing classroom instructional time. The middle school model is being removed completely, and teachers feel undervalued by the district that is supposed to support them. When the profession of teaching is not respected, the students are the ones who ultimately suffer. The Anchorage School District is letting down the entire community. Their actions are a disgrace to the state of Alaska and our country as a whole. My demands deserve to be met. I want a fair contract. I want an open bargaining table, academic freedom, health insurance, equitable planning time, and adequate pay. I will no longer be sidelined and ignored. The time is now to stand up and speak out in support of public education.
Thank you for your testimony.
Good evening, Dr. Bishop, distinguished school board members, and wonderful, incredible colleagues and community members. Congratulations and welcome to our newly elected school board members and to those who were re-elected. I'm going to get right down to it and say my piece for tonight. I need to get home and make a donation to Planned Parenthood. I'd like to tell you about two of the many issues we need to address during our next round of bargaining: academic freedom and equity. I personally know educators working in this district who have multiple master's degrees, a deep knowledge around early literacy, around trauma-informed teaching practices, and around differentiation. They have been reduced to minute-by-minute performances of literal scripts. In addition to the time they spend with their students, planning for their students, getting to know their students' families, they undergo the indignity of being critiqued on whether their wait time between word and your turn was 2 seconds or 3. I am incredulous at being presented with a daily schedule that is dictated down to the minute by demands that educators post publicly which unit, day, and lesson they are currently on. An ever more automatized process of education that is a stark contrast to the innovative, integrated educational outliers presented here at school board meetings. I applaud Superintendent Bishop for featuring classrooms that utilize picturing writing as part of their curriculum. But I also know that there are many teachers out there who have been made to fear using curriculum materials that did not come with the Cengage Reach for Reading label, with its 3 weeks of writing activities that consist of worksheets and only 1 week of authentic writing per month. I agree that an arts-integrated interdisciplinary instructional practice is a better practice, but where is the time for that? What day and time is that in the priority plan? The academic freedom of your educators is how we will ensure that these innovations and integrations continue to be practiced by your educators for our children. I'll end with a story about a student. She's a kindergartner, a gorgeous, roly-poly little girl with an incredible smile, and her family speaks Spanish and Triqui, an indigenous language that comes from the western part of Oaxaca. I had the privilege of interpreting her spring parent-teacher conference this year, where her mother revealed to me that they walk 1 mile to and 1 mile from school every day, with most of the route down busy Tudor and Boniface roads. The child's mother is having trouble getting her daughter out the door every day. The child says it's too far and too cold, and she doesn't want to go to school. Mom told her daughter that school is important, and her teacher does do a great job of making kindergarten as developmentally appropriate as possible given the current curricular constraints. However, I wonder, what are we doing as the district body to draw her into school, to make her want to take on that trek? In what ways are we engaging students? Yes, bringing them rigor and having high expectations, but not by removing science kits and social studies units from our classrooms, that's for sure. Our science kits, our social studies projects, and SEL units, we're giving our students hands-on opportunities to know and understand themselves, others, and the world around them. As I smiled and gave that mom platitudes in Spanish, I wondered if I would have the ganas to walk my 5-year-old legs a mile through the snow, literally uphill both ways, to and from school if I had our current situation to look forward to. And so you will continue to see me at board meetings this next year to advocate for my students and my fellow educators, to demand open and transparent bargaining and equitable instructional practices for all children. And even if some call us noise and unimportant, we are your knowledge workers and we are not going away.
Thank you for your testimony. I just want to thank everyone who testified tonight, and thank you for coming. But we are going to take a short break, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
This is late for you. Yeah, it is. Oh, I'm bad. No, I'm still I'm a sophomore. Congratulations, Matt. Do you remember who I am? I do remember who you are. I was Ben's speech therapist. Yeah, thank you so much. My mom still occasionally talks about you. Well, I recognize you. Hi, how you doing? You're doing well. So, where are you now? I'm a sophomore now at Donley Secondary School. Great. I mean, it's hard to... If you had another name, I don't know that I would recognize you all growing up. So you guys have an advantage over me that I don't do as much as you guys do. Yeah. Anyways, it was a fun surprise to see you here. Yeah, thank you. It's much fun to see you. No, I probably am. I'm sorry. I just don't have school tomorrow morning. Well, I mean, we had a great year. We did discuss school start times like that too. Nothing like super significant. Kind of like an end of the year. Yeah, totally. May 21st. We have two There's two. Okay, cool. So I'll just start. Just like yeah, awesome. Sounds good. Okay, thank you. For your homework. Yes. It's time for you to go study hard. He's 10.
Did that work for you?
Minutes up. Is your oldest?
Yeah. I don't have his number. No. And my phone's in his number's in my phone.
Just charge it. Yeah, it's your 5 minutes. You should go. And then just step out to the So you don't put it on there? No, I can't. Okay, because I look at right over. Well, maybe because I'm pretty much right. Okay. Well, yeah. That's all right, call it back up. Time to go.
Okay, where are our board members? Calling all board members. Okay, the school board is back in session, and I believe our next agenda item is the superintendent update.
All right, so thank you, Madam President. I have an update for the board on the requested items, and did want to share, it is appropriate to share, and especially after we had a room full of our teachers, that tomorrow is National Teacher Day, May 8th. It's also the BP Teachers of Excellence, and so I hope that board members can attend the celebration. But National Teacher Day is tomorrow, and National School Nurses Day is on Wednesday, so it's a good time to celebrate the work of our people in our schools, and we look lots of PTA-sponsored events as well as school events to honor our teachers. We do have a legislative update to share with the board, as well as elementary schedules. The board, as we move forward with English language arts, the board had asked for updates on scheduling, elementary scheduling, and the like. And then also want to introduce you to the new administrative hires. So we'll start with the legislative update, items that are in the process of being complete or being moved to the governor, which is nearly complete just for signing. One that local person Rosie Boggs is involved in is HB 64, the Reading Proficiency Task Force. It does focus on dyslexia as well as other reading initiatives and reading curriculum at the state level. And that bill is awaiting the governor's signature. It had an accompanying bill that did not move through this year. I think the Reading Task Force is basically defined in statute to increase reading outcomes. And so reading literacy in our schools in the state of Alaska. And so they're creating that. They have many members. I know that some members from Anchorage School District have been requested to sit on that. And but it is basically an Anchorage affiliate moving to Juneau that created that. So we'll be awaiting to see how that goes and when it's established. House Bill 333, this is one that our legislators shared with us that they were quite interested in, and the driver phone use in school zones did pass. I do believe that the municipality can still determine hands-free, that it could be used, but that was one that when we had our legislative dinner, some of our legislators were interested in that. And then Senate Bill 216 did pass, and it is awaiting the governor's signature, as did all of these actually passed on the floor, and they're just waiting to have the celebration with the pens, I guess. The school funding for consolidated schools, and that was one that Anchorage was primarily involved in, as well as Lower Yukon, and it was really asking for a smart way that if schools had to be consolidated, a smart way to do that. There's a disincentive truly presently to consolidate schools, and this would be important. As you know, there was one primary school that came off in our study that said we have 4 schools now operating at about 65% capacity at the highest to 45 at the lowest, and that we could take 4 schools and make 3. But as we know, funding is funded by per pupil as well as by school, so that would reduce the revenue that the district could receive, which would then reduce what we could do in our schools. And so, as we know, when kids move into another school, we could reallocate children and staff, but we would still need staff. Teachers are the ones who do the teaching. It doesn't just magically happen. People would need to be there. So if revenue was reduced at the same time, it just didn't make sense to keep, it made sense to keep schools open at a low rate. Some of the consequences of that are just the sharing of staffs for specials and things like that. That doesn't really, we have our people travel then instead of working in one unit. So whether we use that or not really depends on if we need it or if we want to move that way, but at least it's there. That is a make sense kind of funding if a district looks to consolidate schools. The items that are dealing with budget, and I know the folks are gone tonight, but when we do speak about money and budgets, 90% of our budgets go to our people who do the work, and I absolutely agree. It is the people of our system that make our system. We do everything we can to testify and to make inroads into Juneau to receive more funding. I don't see a child as a test cord or a dollar bill, but I know that the people doing the work in the schools are sitting here in front of us asking for a contract. And so the way that we pay for contracts is with funding from the state and local. Locally, it's 100% supported. At the state, it hasn't been increased. When costs increase, we have fewer people. And so we are in a predicament. And then everything that is just unrestful in education comes forward. So I encourage us to, as well as our folks, to share with Juneau where decisions are made as well. Because I know this board and administration went over many, many hours of deliberations, and the result of what we have been cutting is the frustration in our people today. And frustration in our teachers goes to frustration in our kids. It's all connected. So with that, House Bill 287 it was signed for early funding and signed into law, but it really isn't funded. It just says early funding would happen. It's connected to Senate Bill 26, which comes with additional funding in FY20, not next school year, but the year after. So it would look like not even any money next year. You would think maybe take the 117 divided over 2 years to at least help us get there, but there isn't any funding for presently, and hopefully there still will be. One of our legislators asked for our help in sending information down about the VSA increase in our people. So SB 26 funds in FY20, which is not next year, fiscal year. That would be like school years 19-20. Next year is going to be 18-19. So 117 in the BSA. Senate Bill 26, though, is the linchpin is the permanent funds earning reserves account, that it wants to put in some structured draws from that account, continue to build the permanent fund, as well as use some of those for expenditures for the state. So without 26, the House bill is held. So in this as well was we looked for BSA this year, and it isn't necessarily there. The last I heard, it could be 30, it could be 50, it could be 100, but it's pretty quiet in Juneau as far as the testimony goes. So I asked Mr. Anderson, we included this right after our meeting this afternoon because not very many folks are out during the time that we have Finance Committee, but wanted to share that we are moving forward. We did meet our fund balance guidelines, and we continue to be able to put $4 million from savings back into our operating to preserve 40 positions. So, Mr. Anderson, do you want to share on that?
Sure. If you look on the far right side, I believe it's the color tan, I've highlighted a couple numbers. The first block is our beginning undesignated fund balance. So we had a fund balance of about 9.6% rolled over. $4 million of that was board approved to soften teacher cuts for this current school year, and it does appear that we will use all of that $4 million. If you go to the second block down, the current revenue expenditures and other sources and uses projection, you'll see that we are going to spend about $4 million more than what we took in revenue this year. And of course, that was by design, the bulk of that being the $4 million we used for teacher cuts. If you go down to the next block of numbers, you'll look at our projected ending undesignated fund balance. And yet again, this year, for the second year, the board has approved $4 million out of fund balance to go towards softening teacher cuts, which is just under about 40 teachers for next school year. Barring any significant change to the BSA next year, and I talked to multiple legislator offices this morning, it really looks up in the air and everything's being quiet. So I couldn't get a good idea if anything's moving. We're going to finish almost exactly where we said we would when we presented our budget in February. And if you look down towards the bottom, you'll see the state fund balance percent of expenditures at the end of the year. We're projecting 9.67%. 0.6% of that is the $4 million we're going to use that has already been approved and budgeted for next year. So it looks like we'll have about $70,000 to spare above 9%. Barring any questions?
And I would just like to share that this was done with a slowing down of hiring. So it was, you know, in some cases where we're working, whether it's in this building or school buildings, the pain was felt in the slowing down of support to schools, to districts, to offices, you know, to HR. So we slowed it down by 2 weeks to be able to create those funds to be able to put back into the system. So it was planned, but it wasn't without sacrifice, and everybody's doing this work. So, but it would primarily happen in our offices, in schools and districts. So the next item, just wanted to share Alaska's Education Challenge, and the commissioner was here this past week and shared about the Education Challenge, where this was the first portion of it, where many of our teachers, our legislators, and our school board members, we had a couple school board members participate on the Alaska Education Challenge. And The State Department of Education looks to increase student success, support responsible and reflective learners, and cultivate safety and well-being. And their mantra is an excellent education for every student every day. When they came this last week, they outlined for schools their plan, kind of similar to the board's plan of Destination 2020. The first one is that all students read at grade level by the end of third grade. So they do have a focus on early literacy, and I can't help but think that that is tied to House Bill 64. They're coming at us at the same time. Increase current technical, culturally relevant education to meet student and workforce needs. They're focusing on closing the achievement gap. That's also present in your statements as well, our statements really. Prepare and attract and retain effective educational professionals, and improve the safety and well-being of students through school partnerships with families, communities, and tribes. So it's their global look at what they would like to see by that educational challenge to be able to determine, did we meet it or not? And so I just wanted to share that with the board and its connection to your Destination 2020 goals. This was requested by the board, and consequently it was perfect timing during the testimony to get a little bit more information on it. This was shared just last Thursday. It was designed by a group of people to just share back with principals and instructional coaches the discussions about how do we make our school day work, and what does 90-40-40 mean, and what is exactly when. And this is not a bell schedule as you would see in a middle or high school. This is basically some understanding about how do we organize around priorities. And so there is a 90-minute reading block and language arts, which would be writing and some other activities for the language arts. The 40 minutes of when is really what I need, and it truly is that, and it was mentioned. If you look over in the green and blue section, for students that wouldn't need additional instruction, it should be used for math. It should be used for reading and writing and Ignite and science and social studies, other things like robotics, battle of the books. So really, that's kind of an outreach of whatever is there present in students' lives, we hope that they work on. One of the things that they're working on is junior achievement as well. So all those other outside entities that we look at to enhance our curriculum, we're finding a time to actually place that in. Lunch and recess is a combination of 40 to 45 minutes. Some schools are 40, some are up to 50, so it's anywhere in between those two times. 50 minutes for specials, and that is actually the mean over the entire week, because sometimes specials don't happen every day, and teachers go all through the day without a break. And it really depends on, because we share specialists, we share art teachers, we share health teachers, and we share music teachers. And sometimes we even share PE teachers, that those are determined when those sharing schedules between two schools can match. Most teachers in a school want specials towards the end of their day, but somebody has to have right at 9:15 as specials, where the kids come to school and they go right to PE, simply because the PE teachers work all day and the specials are shared amongst schools. So that's sometime during the day we plan for that, which is those other types of enrichments. 60 minutes for math is the guide. There's 30 minutes for social studies, science, and SEL, and 40 minutes for other. That is can be planned additionally with science, social studies, SEL. It could be we have schools placing it around the lunchtime and lunch minutes. It's really determined at the school level. In the science, social studies, and SEL categories, there's prepared now 40 lessons will be available that are thematic for social studies, science, and SEL, as well as 65 other possible days for handwriting without tears, flex time, keyboarding. So the types of activities, the last two time slots, 30 to 40 minutes, are really not scheduled for the core academics in elementary school, especially at the primary grades. The intent is not, and I know we have lots of counselors in our group. I think our elementary teachers have, most of them have moved on, went home after the long testimony, but raising test scores is not an interest of mine. I mean, I would not talk about raising test scores. What I would like to talk about is literacy. And we've had many community people come in front of us, especially from the NAACP, as well as our Alaska Native group, as well as Posey Boggs representing all students, not necessarily a particular student group, share their dismay with reading literacy in ASD. And this board has had a goal to increase its literacy, not its test scores. Test scores are what's reported back, but true literacy in public education is a key foundation of public education in our society. And the goal was we need to get kids reading. Ours said by the second semester of second grade. I want to point out that House Bill 64, because the state's unhappy, they're now making a statutory requirement about reading and how it's taught. I would like to say ASD is basically ahead of the game a little bit. It does take a different look at how reading can be taught. It is about the what, but it is not about the how. I hope that our people bring who they are to the table, to their classrooms every day, but the standards that were adopted in 2012 have determined our what. And I believe our community's desire for literate students have determined our what. The what has changed beneath the floor of our teachers. You heard it tonight. They feel it's not developmentally appropriate.
Yes.
It is what's expected to be taught. It is what our state has said. These are the expectations for our children. We compete globally. We compete on knowledge, it was said. There isn't much that I disagree with coming from the mouths of our educators. From, support, too many kids in classes, high standards. It's all there, but it's our system. And I don't believe, so there isn't an ASD and an us. We are ASD trying to figure it out together. There's 6,000 employees, 3,600 teachers, 48,000 kids. We are ASD, a 7-member board, 8-member board, but Ben took off, I don't blame him. So I just want to share that these aren't in an effort to make anyone miserable. In fact, it's on the contrary. Things are coming at us, and we are responding the best that we can with what we have where we are. And the resources have not increased, but the expectations have. Not only on the school board, by the community and educators, but on our children as well. So there isn't any magic or unrest or anything. It's where we are. And we can read those standards. And they were, when I read the standards, I taught middle school and I taught elementary school, and I read the standards today and think, holy crap, I don't say, sorry that. I think, I didn't teach that. I didn't have those expectations on me or my children when I taught them. But I can guarantee that what I did 28 years ago is definitely different today for the children and for the educators, as well as for school boards and administrators. So I wanted to share that, and actually that was requested by the school board to continue, and it just so happens the planets were aligned that was what we're going to talk about anyway. But more information can be found on that. This is one schedule that one of our elementary principals forwarded to just share, this is what they do in their school, to be able to figure it out. And a lot of things are undefined because they're really left up to the teachers to define. So math is defined from 9 to 10:10. The reading block in the morning is defined in that category. They go to recess and lunch. They have language arts. They have a win time, and then 1:50 to the end of the day till 3:30 or 3:25 before they get out is undefined, but it's everything else that's in our system. But if they choose to do a 2-hour lesson, thematic lesson, it happens. If they choose to break that up and do other things, if they choose to go on a field trip, if they choose to teach double math in a day because they're going to take a whole day field trip, it's really up to the different schools to see how that fits in. But that's one example of a school. Here's another example of a school when we ask for them that shows every possible adult that could support learning placed in a schedule. And you'll see that they're all over the place because of the differences in the reading block for 75 minutes, and then they'll have a lunch recess. They actually scheduled SEL. They have math blocks. They have a WIN, language arts, all different, all color-coded according to who can help where, and with different items. And so we had the board highlighted, I believe, this is from last year, so the Ocean View principal who's now at Chinook, the Chinook principal who's now at Gossoon, and the Fairview principal who's now at the district. You highlighted them for their reading achievement last year. You had asked them to come to Focus on Staff and Students and share that, and this is some of the work that they had done. It will look different in a title school as well as a non-title school, most specifically because there's more human assets in a title school because there's additional funds given for that. There are differences in funding, and I think Member Donley brought this up at a different time about a different subject, but it's true that there are different supports at different schools depending on student needs. And sometimes it doesn't make sense. We'll take feedback and try to rearrange those things, but certainly at title schools, there's different challenges, different resources. It's the jobs are different, but and how I talk to principals is whether you work at South Anchorage High School or whether you work at East Anchorage High School, we are all ASD, and none of us really are successful unless all of us are successful, that we are a team, and that's kind of where we're moving. It does look different in different schools, and it should, because of student needs. We should base it off of where students are. So that's the last example, I believe. Let me see, I haven't looked at this for many hours. Oh, so now I want to share with you a new administrative hires and certainly invite them forward. This is their first meeting, technically, good thing. So I want to just share a little bit about these folks as they walk forward, but Marty Lang is presently a principal at Eagle River High School, and he has applied and interviewed and been selected to be the Director of Secondary Education. He will work with Kirsten Johnson and Joe Zawotny in Secondary Ed. This is a name from the past who's coming back. Her name is Christina Bellamy, and she was one of our principals. We're glad to have her back. She left, and like most people who live in Alaska do, they leave, but then they realize after a little bit that they want to come back. And so we're so glad that she's coming back, and she's going to work. These two folks that I'm going to announce next are going to work under Dr. Jenny Knudsen in the teaching and learning, and so we have a Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning and Elementary Teaching and Learning. And you may have heard before we had a curriculum director, but in the past our curriculum was separate from our schools and what really happens in schools, and so we wanted to combine those to talk about teaching and learning at the same time, to make it possible about the things that we say we think can happen in schools, that they can happen or they can't, and that is a feedback loop there. So Christina Bellamy couldn't be with us because she's finishing out her job duties in Washington, but we're thrilled to have her. As soon as she moves back up here, we will bring her in front of you so you can meet her. She is absolutely dynamic, just as dynamic as this other person who walked up here, Miss Diane Orr, who was formerly in front of the school board being honored for her reading achievement and reading organization at Fairview Elementary School. Diane is now the director of the elementary part of teaching and learning, working under Dr. Knudsen, and her primary focus will be to move forward our English language arts. So if you guys would like to say a word or two, don't be shy.
I just want to say I'm honored and I'm excited to support the school board initiatives, and I look forward to wonderful student achievement in the future.
I also want to thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Bishop, to come over here and work with the great staff at the Ed Center. Some of you on the board I know and have had the opportunity to interact with a fair amount. Others of you I'm just getting to know. Welcome. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I've been an educator in the Anchorage School District now for 19 years. I spent 10 years as a high school English teacher. 6 of those years I taught at Chugiak High School, and then I had the good fortune of being part of the first staff that opened up Eagle River High School. I taught there for 4 years and decided to take the jump into administration. I started that process by doing a 6-week internship at East with Mike Graham, and then was an assistant principal at Diamond High School for 2 years under Cheryl Guyette. So right off the bat, I got some great principal mentoring, and then had the opportunity to move over to Eagle River High School as the principal, and I've been there for the last 7 years. This year I also got to help serve as the first principal of the Alaska Middle College as it came under the auspices of the Anchorage School District. And so pretty excited now to take the jump over to the Ed Center. For a number of the last couple of years, I worked alongside Kirsten Strumpler-Johnson on a number of different initiatives and committees, and our leadership styles very much complement each other. And so I'm excited to work on her secondary team and support our middle schools and high schools over the next couple of years. So thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, and welcome aboard. And Madam President, that is the final superintendent report, but I do want to remind everyone that tomorrow is National Teachers Day, and we heard quite a bit tonight and of anxiety, of unrest, and working on contracts. I want everyone to know that I relate that to the business of education, and sometimes the business of education is messy, not fun. It's not the best part of my job. If I could do anything, we would make people happy, and serving kids makes us the most happy. And if we could really be held in high regard for the profession, such as lawyers and doctors and things like that, it would be wonderful. But I never mix the feelings I get or the anxiety from testimony with the true belief that teachers do create our future. Teachers in our buildings work every day. They're there early. You go by parking lots at schools at night, and they're there. They're at ball games at night, concerts at night, taking care of their paperwork and the schoolwork. And you know, we heard an English teacher grading papers. So let's never forget it is that human contact. It is the teacher that does the biggest job with students every day, making decisions probably every 3 minutes about what next to do and what next to learn. And I am honored to be a part of ASD, being able to serve about 3,600 teachers in our district. Additionally, School Nursing Day is the next day after that, and I think every teacher loves that schools have nurses, because sometimes fixing a boo-boo doesn't work, or large-scale problems and small, but it does take a team, and certainly the people that we're honoring this week truly deserve it for a job well done this year. We're having graduations next year, and despite the consternation because of money issues and state issues that trickle down to district issues, we have the best in ASD, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bishop, for that update. And I did tell our new school board or student school board member that he could go home and go to bed. And so he won't be giving a report tonight. But if we could get reports, and Elisa, Ms. Snelling, if you'd like to go ahead and give your report on finance.
Finance committee met today. We talked about fund balance projection and travel and monthly reports, upcoming audits that we want to do next year, and we're going to meet again on June 4th.
And I know our other committees haven't met yet, but Deena, would you like to, as our new chair of our communications committee, would you like to talk about your upcoming meeting?
Well, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow at 11 o'clock here at the ASD, so we're going to review kind kind of communication needs for the coming year and talk about just logistics and where we want to go with the committee. So,
okay.
And that committee, of course, is always open to the public.
Thank you. And Ms.
Sure. We haven't met since the last meeting, and we haven't set a date yet, but I expect to meet before our next board meeting.
Okay, great. On that note, I will entertain a motion for our consent agenda.
Do we have to do the discipline thing? That comes on the action.
Yeah.
Sorry, my thing isn't locked up.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
And then just read what's on there.
Okay. ASD Memorandum 163, the personnel report.
Do I have a second?
Second. Can she do the whole thing? Well, the consent agenda we do first usually, and then we go to the action.
Yeah, so we need to wait.
But can she read the whole consent agenda? That's it?
That's it.
Oh, that was it?
Yeah. We're learning.
Yeah.
Okay, and if I can have more board members vote, please.
It's just this one. I didn't have my computer out today. I can't see it. Did your blue box come up? Yeah. So I might see on the actual personnel report. That's what I wrote down. Yes.
Okay, and that passes 7 yea, 0 nay. And if you continue with student hearing?
So the next item is student hearings.
Yes.
I move to approve the expulsion of the student associated with ASD incident number 1259123 as discussed in executive session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Members would vote, please. And that passes with 7 yeas and 0 nay.
So now do I read all of the action items together or one at a time?
One at a time.
Okay. I move to approve ASD Memorandum 171 and adopt the attached resolution in support of National Teacher Day, May 8th, 2018.
Second.
Okay, and do we have public testimony? Any? Okay. Any board discussion? Andy?
Just an interesting time to be voting on National Teacher Week for Appreciation Day. I did, in a way, want to respond to some of the remarks that the superintendent made. We have adopted tough standards, but coming out of the classroom, to me, the standards never dictated what you were supposed to teach. They're where you're supposed to get to. They're a destination, but unfortunately, I feel like a lot of the curriculum and the expectations of principals in the district are using the standards as this is where you're going to be, this is where you're going to start, this is what you're going to cover. And I think that may be a lot of the stress that teachers feel. Sometimes you have kids that aren't ready for that. You've got a book that's the one you're supposed to use, that's got the material in it. They can't read it, they can't absorb it. And I think when teachers have raised their hands and said, this isn't working for my class, they've been told to figure out a way to make it happen. And I'm going to step out on a whim and say that's where a lot of the big frustration is at, that they don't feel like they've got a recourse. And there's a disconnect here, because if you don't teach the standards that are set for grade level, then you can't expect to get to them. And we want teachers to get to them. But I do think as part of Teacher Appreciation Week, which really ought to be every week that school's in session, June, July, and the first half of August, I think will take care of itself. But when school's in session, that we need to be ready to listen and react when they say, this doesn't work in my situation. And a strong principal is either able to explain how they're not understanding what they're about in the moment and guide them, or help them find an alternative way to work and be making progress for each kid. I didn't want to let the evening pass without saying that. I, of course, support the resolution for National Teacher Day, National Teacher Appreciation Week. I thought we heard a lot of great, insightful testimony tonight.
Any other board members? Okay. The board will vote, please. And that passes 7 yea, 0 nay.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum 172 and adopt the attached resolution supporting Student Nutrition Employee Week, May 7th through 11th, 2018.
Second. Is there any testimony, public testimony? Okay, any board discussion? I just kind of want to speak on behalf of my grandson and wonder if we're having those, I think he said, what was it? Those, no, shoot, what was he wanted? He wanted those French toast sticks more than once a month. So hopefully we're working on that for, his sake, because he said he'll be the hero of his school if it happens. Just letting you know. Oh yeah, well it might be the syrup, but they like the French toast. So if there's no other discussion, the board vote please. And that passes 7 yea, 0 nay.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum number 156 and authorize the superintendent to award job contracts for general construction to Roger Hickle Contracting Incorporated and Eklutna Construction and Maintenance LLC.
Second. Okay, thank you. Is there any public testimony? Any board discussion? Okay, we could vote, please. And that passes 7 yea, 0 nay.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum number 158 and authorize the superintendent to award a contract for the Nunaka Valley Elementary School roof replacement project to Consolidated Enterprises Incorporated for a total award amount of $1,493,959, or $1 million. $1,493,090. The amount that's on the sheet.
Okay, thank you. It's late. Any public testimony? Any board discussion? If we could vote, please.
I vote yes.
Okay, that passes 7 yea, 0 nay. At this time, we're moving on to our action items. Are there any action items at the, non-action items, sorry. Is there any non-action items that the boards would like to pull? Okay.
You'll see them again.
We'll see them again. Yes, we will. So we will move on to if there is any other public testimony, if anybody else would like to testify. Yes.
So,
if you'll state your name, please.
Sure. My name's Jane Parkhurst. I work at St. Mary's Creative Play School, and I've been an educator on and off for 20 plus years. And I've never worked for the Anchorage School District for many reasons. Mostly because of what I see that's happening today in our education system. And It's not just a dollars issue, as has been talked about. And how many of you, when you're learning something new, play to learn it? You figure it out, you tinker with it. And that's how you oftentimes figure it out, any of you. And so play is so important to every learning, not just early childhood. With all my heart, I implore you to encourage our teachers and allow them to use playful learning activities, not just in kindergarten. Like it's been said, our future are these little ones and these older ones. And I just can't stress the importance of it. And I thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you for your testimony. And I did kind of overlook future items and future business, so I apologize. We'll get this down pat. So do any board members have any items for future business or future items? Ms. Snelling.
I do think I would like to get some clarification in whatever the best format is, from the administration, just to help me understand. I opt in, I opt out, I do all sorts of opting with a bunch of things at school. I would like to understand what the boundaries and the roles of, the different, sex ed and Planned Parenthood and all of that is. I got 3 kids, and I know that I'm really good about seeing what I'm signing off on, but I like to see how it's all happening and just to understand it and to understand where some of the comments are coming from and the why.
So we do need somebody to second that.
Second.
Thank you.
Madam President, there was some questions that came to me prior to this meeting from a board member. When the law came to fruition in regard to volunteers and information about Planned Parenthood and other organizations that come into the school, we had our expert Melanie Sutton come and share what those were so that the board could see that we were meeting the law, and perhaps rather than just written, that we would have during a work session, perhaps Melanie revisit that and then share with the board and we can answer the questions. So that might be, and then it would be during a work session rather than just a reading. That will work. That would be my suggestion since it was more than one person.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any other future business? I do. I know that it's been a year since we've implemented our SBBS program, and I think it would be nice to have an update on how we did on our first year, and maybe have individuals from the different schools come and report on how it's going. Are there any other board members that would second that?
Second.
Okay, thank you. And I had something else. Okay. Oh, the other thing I'd like to consider something we could take up is one of the things I had recommended to the school district before is a volunteer program. And I think given where we're at with our teachers not having time to do a lot of things and having to fill in for noon duty and lunchtime and those type of things, I'd like us to take a look at that volunteer program again and see if that's something we could implement to help our schools and teachers out. Can we get a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Any other future business? All right, well, at this time then, we will take any school board administration comments or communications that you would like to talk about. Any visits this week, or we just want to? Yeah, just if you have something to say, go ahead and say it.
Well, I've had the opportunity to go to several things, and they've all been just really wonderful. I was out at Chugiak High School for their Spanish immersion completion ceremony, and watching the slideshows of those students who have been together largely since kindergarten and first grade was really wonderful. Last night, you and I both were at the Korean first annual scholarship program, and to see those students up on stage and the community support providing all these scholarships for those students was really fantastic. Just there's so much going on in the district that is amazing, and we have students who are engaged and excited about their next steps. The other thing that was really a wonderful experience for me was at the King Career Center, soon to be King Tech High School, the signing ceremony. 9 students from KCC who have, one of them has struggled, was at Benny Benson for a while, and he is now being signed on as an apprentice with a trade program. And to see those kids being able to step into positions that, you know, they said on average these positions are filled by 26, 27-year-old people with a lot more life experience was really powerful. And to hear the story about the teachers and how in all of these things, the main message was the connection with teachers and how important that is, and the teachers who believed in these kids and the teachers who inspired these kids. And one of the kids at KCC talked about, you know, he had to beg for another chance to come back to KCC, and rather than being truant all the time, he never missed a day all year, and you know, just had really turned things around, and it was just so impressive. So I know that there's so much that goes behind supporting this. It's the teachers, it's the support, it's the administration that happens over here, it's the school business partnerships. There's, I think the more community engagement we have, the stronger we can be. So I'm glad to hear about your interest in the volunteer program.
Any other board members? I just want to say, oh, go ahead, Andy.
And I'll say real quickly, I was at KCC also. One of the things that's becoming very apparent when you go to a signing program for kids going into the trades, you're not necessarily expecting the most eloquent speakers to take to the podium. These are labor, body repair guys, other things like that. Every single student was an outstanding spokesperson. And the lead-off student had better speaking skills than anybody that's been in this room tonight. And of course, we've watched a lot of our students come up. I'm trying to remember the last time I saw a student that wasn't pretty good at public speaking, and I'm having trouble remembering that. So when people are talking about how our students can't read and they can't write and they can't do different things, I'm starting to kind of wonder where they're going to find examples of those students. Certainly our better students are really knocking it out of the park in a way that's beyond all expectation. The King Career was just an incredible example of that. The kids are very eloquent about what motivated them and where they were going, and were able to express it really, really well.
So I just want to say very quickly, because I know it's late, Sonic Boom, oh my gosh, I love that. I even talked to my grandson about it. He's ready to take up an instrument, so it's pretty exciting. The other thing was the event at Clark Middle School, the celebration they had. They had the young Black Panther actress that was there. It was very well received. It was very exciting. And the other thing I want to say, and I know a lot of our teachers and everyone have laughed, but take your voices that we heard tonight, and please do what you're doing here and do it for Juneau too. Because a lot of this is things that are out of our control. A lot of it's in our control, but Juneau is not hearing from anybody. It's quiet, and they need to hear from us. So I, as a board member, would appreciate all of those voices being heard in Juneau also. Thank you. And we will adjourn.